Okay, why don't we call this to order? Roll call. Vicki Myers, here. Mark?
Here.
Tracy?
Here.
Bob is absent. Greg is absent. Nope, Greg's here.
Come on.
Pete is absent. Woody?
Here.
Kathy is absent. Ann?
Here.
And Dwight is absent. Okay.
And with an E.
Is that,
Give me some.
did I write it without any?
It's everywhere is wrong. But it's okay.
Well, it's got E here.
I'm not, but it's not one of us anyway.
I've got an E on you here, but this
Good,
is not
that's
it.
fine.
Okay.
I left it off.
Minutes have it.
I left it off. Yep.
Approval of minutes. January 22nd, we'll do those next month.
Yes.
Okay. So February 26th.
I looked at them, but I didn't have any confused.
Anybody have any changes?
Once I had them, I could find them.
How about if I start while you guys
I
find
don't
your...
recall getting them, but
They
that
were
doesn't
in there.
mean anything.
They were in the agenda electronically.
agenda.
Oh, yeah.
I emailed it all.
Yes, you
I
did.
only printed out the agenda.
Would you like
Oh, and
to...
I even put a note, Woody, to make sure.
It's not your fault. I ain't blaming you.
Would you like to postpone them?
No.
Okay.
I'm sure from the doing, they're absolutely correct.
Oh my.
And if they're not, Vicki will let her know.
There you go.
I feel bad. I mean, I feel like I always have comments, but...
You
That's okay. We rely on you to do that, Vicki, so keep doing it.
You had on here, it says, you said he is absent, but he talks later. Dwight actually was
That goes off.
absent, and Mark and Dwight were absent, but they both sent comments.
That's right.
And that's where,
That's
I was
right.
thinking
You're
that
making-
it was comments.
That's true.
and then also I had down under, Wes, you talked about the public input meeting. And we talked about how the numbers needed to be adjusted, that the final pictures didn't match the actuals. I thought maybe we should add that in our minutes, that you were going to do that just as a flag.
Sure.
Um,
That's been done, and you've got revised copies I'll give you guys today.
oh, okay.
Wow.
On page 123 of the minutes, about halfway down, I had in my notes that we were going to, on page 4-12, we were going to add a section on boating access and facilities. You remember that? So I wanted the minutes to reflect that. On the next page, I had in my notes 4.2.f that we were going to investigate a grant-based seasonal trolley. That was, I believe, came from Dwight.
I must be looking at the wrong minutes.
Let me see. 4.2F.
February
I have more
26th.
too.
Yeah, Roy definitely had that in his notes.
We didn't want to say put one in, but we said investigate. If I remember that correctly. That's what I had in my notes. I didn't go back and listen to the whole meeting again. I'll tell you.
It's not there. No. My minutes don't have
Vicki,
it.
you're saying she left it out
Yeah.
completely.
It's not mentioned in there, but I had it in my notes, and so I didn't want it to fall off the table.
Well, I know Dwight had it in his notes, but I don't think we agreed to that.
Yeah,
And the reason being it wasn't high on the,
Exactly.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
said it wasn't high on the list of things that people
That's
were
right.
interested in.
because I don't
Yes.
have it. I didn't have it as one of my changes.
I think that's the
Yeah.
way it
I can see
Shook
the
out.
number
I
of
think
issues.
it was.
4.2.g, this concerned the golf carts. And we were good with bicycles, but we wanted to delete the golf cart parking because it's the same as any vehicle parking.
Can you read what it says? That you want it.
Yeah, I can do that.
Well, some communities
have unique golf cart
Well, we
parking
do.
spaces.
We do, actually.
Ocean Isle has,
We already have
has
that.
Ocean Isle has several corralled areas for golf carts.
Right, and they take up
only.
much less space than
that
car
speed limit.
spaces. They don't require as much depth or width.
Gotcha.
So,
Now, I hear you, and we have some of that.
We do have some of that.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
so
why
I
I'm
don't-
wondering what it says that needs to be changed.
Oh.
Like, what does it say here?
Well, these are the minutes.
I have a question.
Says we'll read as follows: bicycles and golf carts. Town supports the safe use of street legal golf carts. And what I've got in my notes
More than
is, well, I know that we said that the golf carts, but we've got in here somewhere that it contributes to less congestion, and strongly disagree with that. Traffic congestion, yes. Other places, if you had a separate lane, sure. But for our island, not the case. I mean, I know you're out driving around. You
There-
get behind the golf carts in the summer?
I'm trying to locate where
I'm trying to look at it.
we had something that so for 1G, the town supports the safe use of street legal golf courses, and then the recommended action was work with the planning and zoning board to explore policies and regulations concerning the use of golf carts in the town.
Is that, which number is that?
It's in,
So, sorry, it's 42G, and that's
Yeah.
because the numbering was off on the first plan. So it
Yep.
was bicycles and golf carts. The town supports the safe use, etc. Now it's been modified to the town supports the safe use of street legal golf carts. And then the recommended action is work with the planning and zoning board to explore policies and regulations concerning the use of golf carts.
and that's proper language for a
That's
land
good.
use plan. Going into the regulatory portion of it and talking about that needs to go over into the planning board and then be brought over into either the land use section or into a regulatory. But
I'm good with
that's
that.
more
Okay.
regulatory and doesn't really even need to go to it's recommending the planning board, but regulatory stuff don't have to go to the planning board. It can go directly to
Read
the
that to me
commission.
again.
It's
So,
The town
but,
supports.
the town supports the safe use of
Yeah.
street
Which
legal
I
golf
think is what
carts.
the meeting minutes
well,
said.
that's because you can't legally
It
deny
says
them
the
access
safe
to
use
the
of
road if they're street
legal
legal.
golf carts.
Right.
Yep.
So that's already what you have in the
Okay.
minutes. The
Good.
minutes are.
Okay.
Can't override North Carolina.
Yeah, you can. If it's street legal, it's street legal. You don't
And then
get
the
to, that's a
pedestrian
DOT
one
road.
actually was another one. Like we took off the pedestrian because the pedestrian was 42H, where it talked about bicycles and pedestrians. So that's why we took it out of the other one with the golf carts, right?
Okay.
Right.
See right there.
Okay, then I had a question on 4.3.c, signage. Did somebody say add parking signage?
That's
We talked about town shall improve the signage of existing public access sites located along the ICWW and the beach. And then,
we've already done all that.
Okay.
The public access is the signage. If you're talking about, we were required to actually put signs at each one. They're illuminated day. You can see them during the day. They're illuminated at night. They identify each public access to whether they are public access, and then each one has its own address now, as required by 9/11. We did that 2 years ago.
Now the committee did recommend the language say exactly as Vicky said, and we have modified it accordingly to say exactly that. The town shall improve the signage of existing public. Now, if it's already done, it's already done, and if we need to go back and take this out, but that's what the committee decided.
Yeah.
the only
To
other-
improve it.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The crosswalk.
No, just signage.
Public access.
Well, that's,
Which of the minutes?
Access, not crosswalks. Confusing.
4.3.k, moorings acceptable in commercial, are only acceptable in commercially adjacent property. That's on page 4.16.
There was no, we did not have discussion, or if we did have discussion, there was no recommended changes on that item.
Okay. And then last one is that 4.3.m. Were we going to add in
Where's it in?
Wait, where is that?
It's there, 460.
Oh, no, she's adding the stuff.
Oh, we're adding, okay,
It's not in the meeting minutes. Right?
Right.
okay, add on.
Okay, this includes but is not limited to projects that deposit spoils below the mean height water. I think we said except on the ocean front because we do that.
That was never discussed in the committee. Now, we can go back and make those changes if it discussed.
I don't have any
We
notes on
were
that
not,
either from when
there
you
was no
talked about it.
direction to modify that section.
Okay. Well, we're talking about minutes, so
Okay.
that wasn't in the minutes then, so let's not change it. But I do think we need to go back and modify all that aside because we do that and it's important.
I
So,
know some part of the minutes, and I wasn't at the meeting, but why was the trolley thing rejected?
No, I remember. Let's go back to that. I recall exactly why we discussed this. This is talking about navigation channels, not the ocean,
Right.
which are entirely two different things, and pier head
Okay.
alignment and so forth. And that's why we did not modify that section.
In regards to the trolley, when we talked about that, we said that we needed to focus on what the survey showed were the high priority items, and that wasn't, and that didn't, the trolley was one of the questions, but it didn't make it into the top.
I couldn't remember the trolley being on the
Five.
questionnaire, but it was.
Wasn't
no,
it in
I don't
there?
think it was.
I don't think it was, so
Okay.
that would have had to have been I mean, if someone would have added the questionnaire, it might have been, I don't know, it just seems like a trolley would fall in line with other objectives like the aging in place and
Well, I thought that
But
was
they-
fine.
congestion and
Identify
parking
either.
and everything else. It just seems like it would be a natural to coordinate with some of the other stuff. And
Well, if that's actually in the land use plan, then that can actually become part of it if you are referring to the land use plan, if that's the kind of thing you want to do. Your land use plan is more of a comprehensive plan. Just getting into direct planning in your land use plan is not what you're trying to do. So it literally plays into all the things you just said. And so that in the future, if we start looking at it, then it would be in order with your land use plan. If you didn't have it, then it would be in contradiction to your land use plan, and your odds are you wouldn't go forward. If you're trying to plan everything into your land use plan, then you know what I mean. Then you're into some hybrid of a plan.
it just seemed like it was an idea, and there are a lot of other things in here that are probably ancillary ideas. And if
Yeah.
nothing else, if by getting it in here as an idea,
It's sort of like public parking. When you say, do we need public parking, or if we're going to write a rule that somehow affects public parking, we go into the land use plan and see what the land use plan says about public parking. You know what I mean?
So do
But
you-
if you try to plan that before you get to that point into your land use plan, this document's going to be that deep. It's
So
going
is
to be
it-
that big.
As a possible action, then do you object to it saying investigate?
But I don't object to it saying investigate, or I don't object to saying it's something that, that would be favorable within the town. What I do object to is that this constant, we would like to see aging infrastructure that accommodates aging folks. Well, that would include a trolley. What I'm saying is that infrastructure or stuff that would help with the aging demographic, right? Mm-hmm. Well, there is a lot of stuff that does that. So we use this plan whenever someone brings something up to see if what we're trying to do is in compliance with our camel use land plan. We don't use this plan as we pick it up and go, well, when they were doing this land use plan, they did not say we needed a trolley.
So we can't have one because it wasn't in there.
Because we can't have one because it wasn't in there. But if you say that, then there's no need to go into these direct little tidbits of trying to accommodate for all these things.
I would just say if the committee feels like it's important, after you guys are given today chapters 1 through 4 revised. So when we go back through a review of that, let's bring it up again I think that would be the appropriate time rather than discussing it in the minutes, because we're on the minutes right now,
Yes,
right?
we are.
I also think that we need to, every time we should be getting like a reminder of what the survey was. What were the answers that were high priority of the survey? Because that's where we need to be cognizant of remembering every time we're going through this, what was important to the town people.
And that's perfectly fine as well. Chapter 1, you're given draft, top five public input
Perfect,
priorities.
perfect,
As
perfect.
we believe them to be. We're not saying that they're final, but our general understanding of the things that are important as a result of the public meeting, this committee, and the survey. So
Okay, perfect.
those will
So
be
that'll
in there.
in the next
Yep.
version.
And all the survey results as well.
Perfect.
So you'll get that today once we're done.
Perfect.
Okay, all that being said, is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I should have asked, were there any more changes? No more changes? Any opposed? Okay, that motion carried unanimously. Okay. Public comments on agenda items. Are there any comments from the public? No comments. Okay, let's move into review of draft chapter 5. Wes?
Okay, thank you, Vicki. All right, so just for me today, we're gonna go check on where we are in the schedule, review chapter 5. As I stated, you'll have revised chapters 1 through 4 and chapter 6, tools for managing development. I'll explain what both those entail when we get to them. I also want to point out that two of the Council of Governments interns are here. Andre Wright is helping us with GIS, and Sam Shore is an MPA intern, both students at UNCW. So that's who they are if you had questions. All right. So schedule. We are here on the 23rd, scheduled to meet again on the 26th. This is from our original work plan. When we meet again on the 25th, we'll need to review Chapter 6, Tools for Managing Development, and you'll also have the previous 4 chapters to go through to make sure you're generally happy with that material. And then we will work with this committee as long as we need to get this draft recommended to the planning board. Now, we do need to have some type of public open house between now, in the original schedule had it sometime in September. It needs to happen between now and adoption. It's up to the committee to sort of figure out how you want to handle it. Some communities choose to have that open house on the night that the public hearing is for the commissioners. It's logical. If folks have questions, they can all be asked at that point in time. Or you can do it before your planning board meeting. Do you guys have some thoughts on that? Because it'd be good to go ahead and think about getting that scheduled. Now, granted, it's not going to be until September, perhaps October, depending on when the planning board gets this document.
Historically, we have those kinds of things right before
The
Board of
commissioners.
Commissioners.
Yep,
So do you
that's
mean
what I thought.
before 7 o'clock, or do you
Yeah.
mean before, like, days before? You mean just like
7
right?
o'clock, like,
Same
You
day.
have it
Yeah.
at 6 o'clock? Or-
So if people
Okay.
could coming into the
Yeah, yeah,
meeting and
okay.
we'd
What
have
happens
maps
is
set up.
you get
So-
more
Yeah,
participation
they're
because
coming
they,
anyway.
well, they're picking up, they're looking to see what's on the agenda and see if they want to come, and then they'll see it. But we're going to advertise it before that too.
Yeah.
We had a
We'll
lot
get
better
with it.
turnout for the February meeting than we ever do for Board of Commissioners.
Yeah, I know.
Which
we
I
do.
know.
And you're going to have more this time too, if they think there's a document for them to see.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those same people are going to show up, and then you'll probably have more, especially in September. So, because we have a lot, September the 20, what did we say it was? Is it in September? We don't know what that date is yet.
We don't. We sort of need direction as to when
Well,
it
we
needs
do
to
know
be.
We
what
have a
the
lot
board
more
meeting
property
date
owners
is,
on
right?
this beach between Labor Day and September and the end of October than any other time. That's when they come to the beach.
So we know what that date is for September. She can tell it to you.
The commissioners meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
17.
that's also, and this is why I wanted to bring this up to the committee, because if we're waiting to public hearing, then that means the document goes into the DCM review black hole, and they could It could be 2 months or 4 months, and I have absolutely no control over that.
Well,
So that can't happen
But
until
we will-
after public hearing, you're saying?
Yeah,
We will schedule the public hearing immediately when we receive word from CAMA that the plan meets all the requirements. And it will. But
you don't-
until that's released, we can't get it scheduled for a public hearing and adoption. And that's why we have this,
Sounds more like October then.
December to February 2020, who knows?
So when are you sending it to them?
We will send it, when we get it complete, we will send it to DCM, who will then tell us if it meets their criteria.
That's correct.
If it does, then we'll take it to the board. There's no need to have the board approve a document that they will not approve.
That's correct. And that's the
So-
required procedure per 7B guidelines.
So you can't do that until after the August 27th, are you saying, or
Well-
can you do it before?
Well, if we're finished and we approve it, then yeah, if the committee says, okay.
I mean, the commissioners meet on the 17th, and we're scheduled to have a planning and zoning meeting on the 24th, a week later. Is that a time enough to turn around and
But
adopt?
the question is, if this committee wants to do it before public hearing and adoption that evening, that's fine. We'll just schedule it when DCM is done with their review. And we just won't know when that is. If you want to do it prior, then I would recommend doing it at the planning board meeting that this will be recommended for adoption.
Okay. We have been, the staff and the commissioners have been slapped and double slapped numerous times in the last year, and we've also taken a philosophy that we will not do a one and done on hardly anything anymore. I know that people in this room have heard it and seen what happens when we do that.
So you'll have 2 public hearings.
So what we need to do is we need to have one for ourselves and one for the board. And let's do it twice, because that's what they're emphasizing. They want the public to have every opportunity to see this stuff before it goes to them. And that's what they've said. So we're going to do it twice, because that's the guidance that I'm getting from above and below and all around me every day.
Then
So wait, are you saying planning and zoning should have a
I
public?
think
Yeah,
we should have
yeah.
one, and then
And
I
let's
think
do it.
then we should schedule the one.
With
Like
the
a- yeah.
commissioners?
Yeah, so then, once you guys have passed it on to planning board, which could be sometime in the next couple months, then we'll schedule that hearing. Whatever day at which I'm going to present that to you guys, which folks that are on the planning board, you'll be obviously having it for the second time, we'll have an hour-long open house session right before you're scheduled to begin. Is that good?
So can we plan that?
Well, not necessarily, because it depends on when this committee approves the plan for further consideration.
So according to that though, I'm thinking that we're gonna approve it on we get the final
It'd be great if in August.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
can't see that we wouldn't approve it in August.
Right.
So then our September meeting, we should be planning on having that for the planning and zoning.
You
Correct.
want to have a public meeting, though, in the evening as opposed to the afternoon?
Well, they'll get the evening one with the commissioners and they'll get the afternoon one for planning and zoning.
Yeah,
Unless you
but-
want to schedule something special for planning and zoning.
We'll do we'll have it right before the planning and zoning. We can do it then, and then, that's just one we're doing, and then we can have one before the Board of Commissioners. And then we'll also have this thing out for people to review, and we'll put it everywhere we can actually
yeah.
dump it for them to see it, because we don't want anybody to say it was something that they were unaware of. But you also got to remember that this is much like that Freeport we did. We're getting a lot of input from our committee, and y'all are also out in the community too. Everybody knows this thing's going on. So,
And this would be published publicly at least a week prior
we're
to
going to do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
whatever meeting we.
What I think, and this also needs to be determined by the committee, but once you guys have made, are satisfied with it, I would anticipate we put it on the town's website.
We are.
Yeah.
All of those things, and for anyone to review. So,
Yeah, those kinds of things, those decisions will be made here because of the way this committee was formed. But that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
We're going to make sure everybody has an opportunity to see this thing before it gets to that Commissioners one, after DCM approves it. We're not gonna put it out there till they approve it.
Okay.
Okay, so wait.
So Wes, that's what I'm confused about. You
Yeah.
got DCM after the planning board.
That's the-
approval.
Yep.
But you really don't know when the board of commissioners will get it.
Because DCM could have it for their minimum requirement, which I believe is 45 days, or as has happened at other times, it's a 90 or 120 day thing, and I just
I can
I
tell
have
you
no
the last-
control
If
over
we,
it.
okay, just to follow a timetable, though, August 27th, we review the final draft, and assuming we come to some consensus, then on the 24th, at our regularly scheduled meeting, the first hour would be for public comment and
Yep.
input.
Yep.
Then there would also be, as Tim suggested, a public discussion or available meeting before the commissioners' meeting in October then?
Well, the commissioners will not get the document
But I said
until
there was going to be a second public
there
meeting.
will. It's when DCM
Well,
tells
that's
us.
after- That's not till after that.
That's right.
Okay.
That's DC. So it goes Planning Board, Division of Coastal Management, then Board of Commissioners.
Now, if you let the planning board review it first, if we need to make any changes
Yep.
or see anything, then we can change them before it goes to DCM.
Yep.
It will not go to the Board of Commissioners until it's an approved document, because there's no need for them to approve a document. It could be in an endless loop trying to be approved. I will say this, I talked to Braxton Davis, and he told me that their turnaround time now is much less than it used to be.
Good.
Because now it's at the staff level. It doesn't have to go to the board to be approved. So they made those changes last year, so.
So what if the board wants to make changes, though? It has to go back to DCM again?
It can if they make substantive changes that are, I'll send it to Mike Christenberry, who is our local Division of Coastal Management regional planner. They've made these minor changes or these major changes, and I will obviously advise the commissioners if they're doing changes that are not in accord with the 7B requirements, then that we can't have it be certified. Mm-hmm. So, and that's basically the only thing that would modify it. Things like that would require it not to be certified is we're modifying the 5, CAMA management topics, which I don't anticipate we're going to do. We're taking out some of the provisions like the 30-year population projection. I don't anticipate we're going to do. So, typically the elected officials want to make modifications to some of the policies, which is completely acceptable and will not impact the
Because I
criteria.
guarantee they're not gonna accept it as is. I mean, they're gonna wanna make changes.
Absolutely, which is totally anticipated.
Okay.
And
Well,
this is the Division of Coastal Management procedure, not mine.
I would recommend that the Board of Commissioners, and if I have to stand up to the next meeting, that they come and review it and then recommend changes. I would not recommend that they wait till after they see the final product and it's been to DCM to try to make changes.
Agreed. That's
They can have input, it's just like anybody else. You know what I mean? This is not a close. You've already canvassed the world. Why can't they say anything? They should be having input.
Yeah, I would hope to receive input by anyone that wants to give it after this has been recommended out of this committee.
So let me see if I'm following. On the 27th, we get the final draft. On September, we're gonna have a public hearing with the planning and zoning, which hopefully will include the commissioners to give input as a public citizen. And then we will make changes. I mean, they're gonna give us input and then
Sure.
we're possibly making changes. And then after that, it goes to
Coastal Management.
coastal management.
Well, you got to remember
Okay.
that we are following the 7B guidelines, and they're not going to be able to get an approved document if they start recommending changes that are not in order with the 7B. So, that it would behoove them to trust their committee, you know what I mean, and the consultant that we hired to make sure that we're in compliance. Let's hope that they're not planning on a document rewrite. So,
And it's you will more or less, I will bring back, based on our changes that we have today for Chapter 5, I'll bring you a revised copy in June. So you'll more or less have a fully revised document at your June meeting. Chapter 6 is a boilerplate requirement of 7B guidelines. All it is a matrix that has recommended actions. There's no new material. And then discussion about your existing development program. What Tim's job is, what the flood damage prevention ordinance is, things like that that are ancillary information.
So we'll get a whole new book.
Today you're getting chapter 1 through 4 whole new.
Okay.
Filling your binder up.
No, I'd throw away the old stuff.
That's good.
Notes.
All
Too
right.
confusing on that, trying to get your table of contents.
Now,
I
did we,
thought you meant you just threw it away before we got the draft back.
we didn't just make any changes.
On here.
Okay. Are we good with that? All right. Moving on.
Can I ask one question?
Yes,
And
yes,
I
sir.
don't mean to take us off on a tangent, but I want to go back to something Tim was saying. We're talking about the trolley.
Yes.
I want to make sure I understood you. If I understood you correct, you were saying it'd be better to say things like, we want to have infrastructure in place that supports an aging population as opposed to saying, we want a trolley.
I mean, if you, yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Because you're not limiting yourself to a trolley.
Correct.
Okay. That's what
An
I'm talking about.
umbrella.
You're
An
saying,
umbrella, that's right.
you're saying make more strategic.
See, what we do is,
Direction.
in case folks don't understand it, the land use plan, we will literally use it as a philosophy. And then we will actually tell you whether or not the things that you are doing, or if people come and try to do stuff, if that is in compliance with it. So if somebody brought a proposal to come into this town to put a trolley system in, it's, we would look at the thing and say, yeah, we say we want to accommodate aging folks. This is in compliance with your land use plan. You know what I mean?
Yep, okay, I just want to make sure that you're saying.
But that doesn't mean that it's going to be approved.
That doesn't mean it's going to be approved, but
Yeah.
but it is. We can recommend it. Staff can say that
It's
we reviewed
consistent.
it and it's consistent with
Yeah.
the land use plan.
Well, it's more of a strategic statement than it is a tactical statement.
Yes.
Right. But what I'm saying is if you start finiting it, you start limiting.
Yes.
You start limiting the possibilities.
All right. We ready?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so let's get into review of chapter 5. And we'll just proceed as we have prior. If there's any general questions about the chapter, ask them now. And if not, let's just start on page 1 and go through it.
Okay. I have one general question.
Yes.
And, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I've been real busy, and I flipped through this, and it talks about. Is there anywhere in here it talks about we've got all of these. We've laid them all out beautifully in the very first part here, where it's existing land use in the planning jurisdiction, and I was wondering if there's any document that shows what the town's owned open space is.
The town's owned open space. No, but we can help you do that
Okay.
for CRS.
There you go. That's what it needs to
Just
be
have-
documented, and we don't have that.
Just
Yeah.
Rhonda, just have or one of y'all just shoot us an email because we'll look at that criteria. That's a pretty.
Yes.
Their criteria is
Open
is
space.
much different than we're just talking in general terms here. Yes.
Well, the open space requirements is it's got to be maintained and
Correct.
even if we leased it for 5 years,
Yeah.
it would be recognizable under the CRS. But we need to know what that total number is, and then we can go out there and find other areas because we've actually got open area that a lot of it that we're not getting credit for where these spoil sites are
We can help you with that.
Yeah.
That's sort of a
because we
different
lease them.
animal, but yes.
Yeah. I will.
Remind me again, CRS is,
Your
Community ratings.
helps you with your insurance.
yes, okay.
Then
What does it
it's
stand
one of
for,
the
though?
It's one of the
Community
commissioner's
rating
goals
system.
to try to
Yeah.
lower
We'll
that
need that
CRS, and we're well on our way.
It's a rating.
Yeah.
We had a
What does the CRS stand for?
community rating
Rating
system.
That's what we would.
I'll be sending that to you pretty quick.
Okay.
Because we're working on getting our stuff together now.
Okay.
Well, the reason being is that if we make that correlation in the land use plan, just like recently, not a year ago, it encourages us to get open space.
Okay, gotcha.
So when the board doesn't want to spend the money to get open space or to buy properties that have like large parking areas and things like that.
Understood.
Yeah.
Would that add another
We may,
bullet?
yes. Well, what we probably want to do is there probably needs to be a recommended action or a policy somewhere in this chapter specifically speaking to that. And we can add just a note in here somewhere as of X date per CRS guidelines. There is approximately X number of acres because they're two separate things, really. All right. Good.
I'm good. I just
Okay, were there any changes on page 1?
So I just had a question. When you talk about multifamily versus single family, where does condos fall into that?
If it's a condo in a building with 3 or more units, then it would be considered multifamily.
Okay. So if
And
you have a
then-
string of condos that are attached, if it's more than 3,
Yep.
it's multifamily.
Yep.
Thank you.
It is 3, is it considered?
That's just for the purposes of this. Now, you can define multifamily any way you want in your ordinances, but for this, the way and it's typical of many ordinances, is 3 or more units. And then duplex is 2, and single family is single family. Even though a single family lives in that condo, they're in a building which has multiple other units.
So you
Yeah,
made
okay. I
reference
just needed to
somewhere,
understand
Yeah.
how you were.
you made reference somewhere in here to 2 family,
Two families.
single
right here.
residence.
Right here.
Yes,
So what is that?
a single family. These are actually
A
duplexes.
duplex.
Duplex.
So you're
Yeah.
calling a
Land use
duplex a
plan.
single family.
That's right. For the
Well,
land use
for the
plan.
land use plan purposes,
Yeah.
yes. Because
I mean,
they are
and it says
basically
that, so that's
regulated.
clear.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I got you.
All those are residential
Yeah, I got it.
these are
classification.
these also mirror the state's classifications for construction between the difference between residential and commercial. Now you could have 3 or more on individual parcels attached to each other. They're still single family dwellings, but you can't have 3 or more on the same parcel and it'd be considered single family.
So if you had 3 condos, that's
That's commercial.
multi. Huh?
They have 3.
Condos are commercial now?
Yes.
Well, based on the building code. Zoning code is another thing. So
It's not this.
you get a building permit, you get a zoning permit. The zoning permit will say you can put that multifamily on there. Once Tim gets the zoning permit saying they can build that thing, then they can build it. If it's 3 or more units, as he said, then it has to meet the commercial code versus a residential code.
Well, that's what this is.
Yeah.
This is based off of that because the only way it could not be a single family is to be on an individual lot. But townhouses on individual lots, 3 more up to 5 or 6 are single family dwellings. It's not the construction. This is a definition based off of use on the lot as far as zoning goes. That's what he said. But it mirrors that law. That's why you don't see the terms duplex in there and condominium.
Don't want to get tangled up, in other words.
Right. It's not confusing.
Why do we have marsh and spoil areas separate from unbuildable? Because they are unbuildable.
This is to indicate there is acreage. You have parcels of land that are deemed unbuildable, basically, that are not necessarily marsh or spoil, that are in the ocean erodible area.
Okay, I got you. I do know that.
Are we good on? Are we good on 1? Are we on to 2?
Yes.
Okay, I'll jump right in. Table 5.2, is there a map of that anywhere?
It's on should be map 5-1.
Yeah,
And East Plain is right by
yeah, it lines up.
Yeah.
Under the commercial parcel count, we just looked, that isn't based on the zoning though, correct?
Correct. That would be just the
Based on the
use of the land. Yes, ma'am.
present use.
Correct.
I think this will be confusing to the public.
I do too.
I really do. And so it would say, we only have 29 parcels that are commercial. No, only 29 being used as commercial.
That's right. Well, we also have vacant lots by zoning also on table 5-3.
Okay, there you go.
Right, that's what's available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Common area, parents private. Shows on the map the entire, more or less, east end.
Yes. I believe that's owned by that development's HOA, if I
Yes.
recall.
15 acres.
Yeah.
So they even own all the way down.
To the water.
Yeah.
Okay. But common area means what then? Common to them?
Yes, that's why it says private. So yes, that.
But isn't
Now there is
the beach though public?
if there's portion of dry sand beach on there, yes. But this parcel of land, if we're looking at it from an existing land use standpoint, would be considered to be, if you had to say one thing or the other, it would be a common area for this particular development. Now, below mean high water, of course, that's
Right.
public trust.
Okay. I didn't know
And it's
that.
used publicly because people come in there by their
Well,
boats.
yeah, and plus we put sand on that. We put replacement sand on that beach for those private owners too, so I mean,
Well, it's just like out anywhere, mean
Right.
high water is your ownership, but
Okay.
you can walk above that line.
um,
Can't stop them.
my other, on the civic institutional, I know when we did the parking study, we own a couple of parcels of land right off of Ocean Boulevard. Right in here. Remember those two places where we're talking about putting drive-through parking? They're
Basically road right of ways.
yeah, road
Yeah.
right-of-ways. Does that count as
If it-
institutional?
If it is right of way, then no. This would be, the existing land use shows areas outside of the right of way, essentially, where, for example, the town, if they owned a parcel, conceivably, they could deed it to another property owner, for example, whereas a right of way is,
So someone owns those right-of-ways today? They're
well, if
private?
they're public right of way, then you guys own it,
Oh, the town.
the town, yeah, but
Okay.
as citizens of the town.
I think that's what they are.
Then that wouldn't be in here.
Okay, but would you show them then as yellow? Because they're not,
If they are outside of the right of way, then it should be in here. But if it is considered to be right of way, then it should not be. We're not accounting for that.
so it shouldn't be colored anything then?
That's correct.
Okay,
Actually, Mark, they're shown on here. They're shown as roads.
okay.
That's basically what they should be.
They are.
Okay.
It might be right there.
Yeah.
It looks like a little white line.
It's just south of
And
the marker 55 with the common area, the green.
Okay. Okay.
I had a question though. Now we have in our common area over in the what's the name of the subdivision with the yellow beach house, where you can see the little turnaround. Don't they have a
Winding.
gazebo? Have they
Seaside
not-
Winding River.
Yeah. Don't they have a gazebo area and all that?
They do. And that would be, where would we find that? Ferry Road.
It's
Yeah,
wide.
Ferry.
Yeah, there's some green, should be some green in there.
Where it go red, you mean?
And I,
No, I think.
Red's where the clubhouse is, the parking.
it has to be commercial, or they wouldn't have a clubhouse there.
Yeah, the red.
So, but down in,
Yeah,
in
this
the
area right
community,
here
you
is-
see
Well,
there's
you're talking
little
about the
cul-de-sacs.
I'm talking about
I'll
this.
show you.
They don't have a clubhouse up there.
No, not a clubhouse, they have
It's
like
just
a
like a little
gazebo.
gazebo.
Oh,
Isn't it inside this little loop there?
Yeah.
Yes, but there's no green.
See
Oh,
that
that
little
little-
dot right
No,
there that
that's
says
pink?
vacant lot?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
That's
There's
being
like a little
shown as
gazebo built there
vacant
inside
land.
of that white.
Okay.
You
I
can drive
mean-
around it.
Okay. I
And
mean,
then the, you know, the tennis courts down by, like,
Down there?
you know, that common area?
no, those are private land.
Private
That
land.
Sunshine, you mean?
How does that differ from the east end?
They're privately owned as individuals owned, not a community.
The,
Tennis courts.
On
okay.
the corner of Sunshine you're talking
No,
about?
no, I'm talking about, over by Tiger Ridge. You know those condos that are in there?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay, that's Captain's Villas.
Captain's Villas.
yes.
Okay, 1068. All right, let's see what we got down there.
let's go back to the other one. I mean, do we need? Is there just a tiny little gazebo? That's
Yes.
It's inside that
Yes.
circle of
it.
road.
Is the primary
It's a-
use of that property vacant? I mean, or is it a common area? That's what we
I think
needed.
it's
There's a
little
walkway
common.
that goes from the waterway all the way to the street and
Okay.
cross over to the
We'll-
clubhouse.
It's just
We're-
a little
And then there's
gazebo.
gazebo.
I'm gonna need to, I'm gonna pull that.
It's a little
Let me get
gazebo.
some more information on that. Let's find out what that is.
I can put it as common area. It can stay as vacant. I don't know if it impacts anything one way or the other, but I want to make sure that it's.
Well, vacant implies to me that it could be developed, and I don't think that can be developed.
Well, it certainly could. The covenants, that little, now that little piece, I suspect it may not, you'd have to pull the zoning or something like that, but if you,
Setbacks would be a bit odd.
setbacks would be a bit odd. Now, if you want me to put it as common area, we'll do that. If
If it's common area.
It's not pink now. It's the light colored. There's no pink.
It's
I
pink.
think it's
NCS
Pink in the
pink.
center.
It's
Yeah,
pink in the
that's it.
center.
The square.
That's
The
what we're
white
talking
is
about.
the
Inside
white
Yeah.
is the road.
so,
Okay, gotcha.
let's put it as common area then.
I don't care what we call it, I'm just trying to figure out the relationship of the greens to each other.
Okay. Common area private for that little area.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this green is marker 55?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, they have docks and stuff too. I don't know if they've had any land
Okay.
adjacent to their boat docks there.
Okay.
Winding River.
This area that y'all are talking about on Ferry,
There's
that
a
might
strip
be,
along the water.
that might be common area.
Uh-huh.
What is it common area for?
Their community.
Their community
It's owned by
club.
Winding River, right?
It's private.
Winding River, whatever.
It's seaside at Winding River. If you
Yeah,
look
thank you.
at where the boat docks are, there's a strip of land, thank you, Mark, that goes along the intercoastal waterway for that whole subdivision. That's common. I don't know how many feet
And they have
wide
a
it is.
walkway that extends all the way to the clubhouse through that gazebo.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
common area for, it's private, although
Well, that's what we have, common area private.
Well, I don't know, but
I
it
can
must
use
must
it
be
'cause I-
commercial if it's owned by the Winding River. Same as the red of where they're,
no, they're talking about being this greenish dotted
I'm going to
stuff.
stand up and walk over here and show you what I am talking about.
yes, but isn't
We
their
not, might not
clubhouse,
even, that is,
their clubhouse is
that's
red?
common
It's
area.
a common
That one?
area.
Okay.
That-
Yes.
No, their clubhouse is red.
That's right.
That's because it was built on commercially
So
zoned
therefore,
property.
their gazebo should be red, because it's also theirs.
No, it's not commercial land.
That's residential property that they put the gazebo on. I mean,
Got it. Okay.
So we're
There's
making
a rule
So it's
of
common,
the
it's just
clubhouse.
common area to that subdivision.
that whole section
I
right
guess
there.
it's, what are you trying to
And
convey?
that little
in this map?
tidbit?
If you're trying to convey
And that
the
little
common
tidbit
areas,
is hard for
then
me
that
to
beach
see.
club should be
Okay.
green.
Thank you.
I'm,
Well,
Well, it's private common area,
Yeah.
which is what he's
They pay
saying.
big dues for all that, so.
The
What is
But
the,
is it
what are you
commercial or
trying
is
to
it private
convey
common
with the
area?
map?
Commercial is a
We,
habitable
we
structure.
are not trying to be,
So this
we are
is
trying
not
to
land.
get a general sense of your land use patterns. And what does the map show? That you're predominantly residential, single family. That is it.
That's right.
And we want to know in general what your vacant land is. And that's it.
And so this is the pier right there in red.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
That being said, at the end of Starfish, what's the little blue dot there?
That is that a park
No,
Is there a park there?
well,
Nope.
it's over on the other.
or is it government owned
Oh,
property?
yeah, that's a park.
Yeah, okay. So then that would be
What's
Park.
that?
Is that the
That's the
park?
firehouse.
Are you talking about the end of Holden?
There is not, I live on
That's
Starfish,
the-
there
the one
is
at the
not
end
a
of-
park at the
Homestead?
end of Starfish.
There is the
Sand
firehouse.
Dog. It's
if
Sand
it's a
Dog.
fire.
You
That's
go-
a firehouse.
That's right.
Sand Dog.
That's a
It
firehouse.
is,
Yeah, it's on the main road.
Civic institutional.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the
So that
civic.
would be yeah.
That's
the
the
joke.
firehouse?
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That blue dot at
That
the
blue
end
dot is firehouse.
is
Yeah.
is your firehouse.
Oh, you said the end, I thought you were talking about.
Sorry, at the beginning.
Yeah,
The end
The
is
other
the
end.
beginning
Yeah.
is the end.
The other end.
yeah, that's firehouse.
so what the map shows is we're predominantly marshland, actually.
Well, so in terms of developed land
1,800
uses,
acres.
in terms of developed land uses, thank you for that.
Pete,
We do have another park in here though that's missing. Just FYI. Pocket Park.
Where is that?
628?
somewhere down there on the 628.
I think it's
It
like
would be a dot so small it wouldn't show up.
624,
Is it in in the right of way, or is it actually a parcel?
It's actually
of land?
outside of the,
It's a little
it's
big.
outside of
Is
the
that it
right
right
of way.
there?
It might be.
I think
It's
that's
outside
it.
of the right of way. It's a little tiny park.
They call it
6.
pocket park.
Let's see.
It's
There's
really-
You know
Charlotte.
what? We didn't do any of the parks though because like we didn't get Paget Gardens not showing. That's a beautification person.
Shows us vacant land, right?
I guess, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's technically not wrong. The town could sell that if they wanted to.
That, you can't get that little park.
No,
Actually,
I wouldn't worry
I
about
You
it.
think
that
it's
was
already
one
on there.
of the,
You can't hit
unbuildable
something like that.
is what it
Okay.
should be.
It's
I think
literally
it's
a-
already on there.
Yeah, even if it's on there,
Yeah.
it wouldn't
I
matter
think
if you
it
couldn't
is.
see it. It's that small.
I think it's
So
already
these
there.
And
little
it,
black
and
ones
it's
are
actually
where the,
unusable. It's
these little
unusable.
black ones are where
It's
the,
not usable.
It's just
Tim,
a
what
set.
about
See
the,
where on the beach?
Yes.
It's not bigger than this table.
Okay.
look,
What about that other area that you were saying we could put parking in now, down before that last set of canals right off Ocean Boulevard?
Talking about the 800 block.
Yeah.
In the 800 block? Yeah, there's a section in there.
Do we,
right?
so we
And the town
own,
owns that.
Right.
where is it on this map?
It's,
Beyond
Right.
Tarpon.
yeah, it's beyond,
Which one?
let's see.
It's before you get the swordfish, isn't it?
Yes, it's in the 800 block.
What is it?
We
Is
own-
it 800, 600, Rhonda? Where we have the property that we've mowed.
It's the
for-
800.
It's in the
I'm sure it's the
800.
800.
I think it's those pink where it says vacant land. I think it's designated as vacant land on here. Because there is a lot we don't own,
And they are
and then a
platted
section we
lots.
do.
They are
Yeah.
platted lots.
Yeah.
So
It's
You
that
might want to
vacant.
at least get those.
Sure,
So
sure. We
Rhonda-
can update those.
Rhonda
Yeah.
can send you that
So
because she
what's
sent
wrong
it
with
to us
that?
for the parking
What's wrong with that
thing.
being vacant land? It's vacant.
I mean, you're really not gonna use these maps for anything legally or regulatory. This is just.
Well, at this point, that land's vacant.
This is just
Yeah.
a depiction of what's going on.
We haven't
Right,
even-
he's just trying to give you a broad picture of how we're using our land. It doesn't have to be
I
100%
guess, we're
yes.
kind of beating this horse to death.
Yeah, it just needs to be
We won't be done by tomorrow.
close
There's a-
enough.
There's a couple palm trees down there that I'm not sure what they're used to.
If you're not listening.
I was listening.
So we have 5-3
That's an
here.
accurate, that's an accurate
I'm ready.
picture right there. That's accurate.
Put the map.
All right, are we done with page 5-2?
Yep, unless anybody else has got something else.
Nope.
5-3?
Yeah, I have one.
What else?
I've got the same one you got.
Go ahead.
How'd y'all come up to 8 people per occupancy? That sounds a little strong. If I have 8 people in my house, I'm running 6 of them out.
Yeah, but if you're
This is
renting, have you ever
peak
seen how many
season.
they crowd into the rentals?
I know, but
But this is residency.
This is a mean or
No,
an average. Too.
This is not.
is
Permanent
if it's an
residence.
average, that's a real problem. I mean, you're looking at calculating this number based on age. Like I said, if it's an average, it's an average for only X part of the year, right?
That-
Yes,
Yeah,
it's-
that's what it
It's
said.
That's only during peak
So
season.
he's
Yes.
talking about all the rentals.
And
That's
that-
right.
And that would be an accurate,
You think it's,
I can tell you how it's an accurate. We've done the math numerous times, and the average structure that gets built or is built here has 4 bedrooms.
Right, that's what you say. I mean, you might have some with 3, but then you have some with
I
More.
can tell you that number is pretty
And some
accurate.
with 50. 60.
exactly.
You're not gonna get any science any greater than that.
okay.
Yeah. If I run those numbers again, I'll lose my mind.
I
And
have a
that's
question.
strictly for seasonal that you're using.
That's
for.
right, just to
Yes.
give you an indication
Right.
of the
Peak.
amount of pressure that this town could have.
Yep.
And again, this is approximation, but yes.
It also goes with our population projections that are done by both staff and by the DOT numbers for that daily high that he's got right there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the numbers correlated. That's a good number.
Okay. I just want to see how you got it.
I had a question on the first paragraph, kind of towards the bottom. It says, as such, it is feasible in much of the commercial zoning districts. Could we take that S off? Because we only have one, we have C1.
Sorry. Yep.
However, then on the next table, you talk about our zoning districts. We also have conservation special use. There's like another class.
Is that a part of the Big C? I mean, is that a sub-classification of?
Well, I just looked
Is
at
that one off the island? That's the one that,
That's a turkey trap.
yeah, so that,
It's
yeah.
off, it's not actually on the
yeah,
island.
yeah, so that, we did not include that
And
one. And
not
it's owned
only
by
that-
the town.
And not only that,
Yeah.
I don't know why we have it designated that way. I'm sorry. I don't know why we have it designated that way because we literally, I don't even know how legal this is, but we actually annexed that piece of property and annexed it with it maintaining its county zoning.
That's perfectly legal.
Yeah, okay, I didn't know if
Yeah.
that's what we did. And the reason we did that is because we had permits already established through the county and we didn't want to mess them up. So we didn't try
That's
to
fine, I
change.
just wanted to
Yeah.
point out, I went through my
How's the sand production
checklist.
there?
Yeah.
Is it reproducing?
I've got-
quickly?
Let me go back to your
Once I
point
got it annexed, I
about
didn't
the-
care. How's that?
Okay, Greg wants to,
Your point about the districts not needing to be plural, I think it's intended to mean like there's one district on Jordan, the pier's another district, not a different classification of commercial.
Actually, I think she's right
Okay.
on this one.
Good.
But thank you for that.
Well, has she been wrong on others? Because she
No,
has. I don't
no,
want to change
that's
it.
right. I forgot. Yeah, right. So disregard that as well. Let's see. Yes, you only have one. What's C1? No, that's
that's it.
That's it.
That's
That's our
it.
commercial.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
With these projections that you have in the last paragraph, are you taking into consideration any of the unbuildable vacancies?
You mean along the beachfront? No.
Okay.
It's only what we have, and again, I'm not saying this is 100% accurate because it certainly is not, but generally this is based on your vacant that's shown purple
Okay.
on this map.
That's fine. I don't want to be here when that happens.
Now, did we used, you used the same formula to determine those future projections with,
Or per.
yeah, for the same,
Yeah.
okay. I just need to know that because it's going to get asked to me at some point in time.
This is the same. We use that 8 persons per unit on chapter 2 as well.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, well, I know that. I just want to make sure that this number, because it's going to come up more than once in the next couple of months.
Now this would be, again, this is at build out. This is not today.
And when is
That's
that
right.
projected to be?
There's no one can project that. I would suspect it will never happen.
Is it 50 years? Is it 30 years? Is it?
He's just saying if it all got built out.
But yeah, I can't.
The only, you can't predict that, but what you can do is go back and look at your past
Yes,
trends.
Okay.
And
Which we looked at.
then you can formulate a number, but you're not going to be able to predict it into the future. It's the same way we do budgets. You can't, it's just not possible.
But we'll probably need another water tower to forgive this.
Exactly. That's my point. People are going to jump to, oh my God, we're going to have 30,000 people. We better get another water tower. Or we better, you know what I mean?
No,
They're gonna,
I think
that's why, you know, it would be
Yeah.
good to have some
that's the reason I asked the question. I did.
reasonableness around when that would happen.
I mean,
I will have a clear and distinct statement for projections on this island when the next time that comes up.
Thank you.
and do remember, this is based on your current zoning regulations. Who knows what the
Future holds.
You know, so now, right now, you guys desire to have it all single family primarily. That in 15 or 20 years, who knows what the desires are.
Yeah,
So,
that could
but-
double or triple if
Yeah.
if your philosophy changed. And
That's right, and I'm not suggesting it will, but this is based on current regulations.
But what you described at the pier the last time, that would be considered multifamily, right?
Yes.
Well, in commercial, it would be built in commercial zoning.
It is residential. Some of it is R2, some of it's commercial. It's both. It's what he was trying to explain the difference, and maybe I did confuse y'all. But he was trying to explain the difference, and I probably should have left him alone. But it's literally, it would be residential under our ordinance. You're allowed to build residential and commercial.
Yes, I understand.
There's two parcels of it that's R2, one's commercial. But it would all be considered residential under the zoning, but it's allowed in commercial.
But it'd be commercial under your building
The
code.
commercial under the building code, yes.
Which we don't have much meat on.
No, he's got a killer
building
building
code.
code, that's the state code, right?
Yeah, it kills a lot of people. Killed a lot of them. It's killing me right now.
It's expensive.
Yes, it's very expensive.
Okay, are we still on 3 or are we on to 4?
I'm on the floor.
That was a good question, man.
Okay, anybody else got questions on 4? I do. Of course, right? It'd be the second paragraph, we're talking about the conflicts. Where are those? I didn't see any looking at the map. Are there any that are in conflict? Like the whole parcel is in conflict?
On map 5-3?
There's some overlap here.
Yeah.
These cloudy areas on this red zone.
The Corps of Engineers easement.
Yes.
Looks-
Yeah.
If you go back into
There's a-
some of
there's
them,
a number of them.
spots where
Yeah, but
it's overlapping.
Yeah.
It's where all
Well, I
the
see where
fuzzy
it's-
zones are.
I'm seeing where it's kind of overlapping, but I'm not. I mean, it seems like there are none that are completely in the overlap, correct?
There may not, well, certainly some of these areas on Seagull, are those look like they're platted.
Yes, Seagull is
So,
definitely
Okay,
impacted.
Yeah, but that would be constraining to your property if your setback was increased dramatically.
Yeah. So those are not buildable then? Is that how that works?
They're buildable so long as they,
The
Build it
Corps
your own
has
risk.
to release them.
yeah.
The Corps has to release them for
Yeah.
buildability.
Wow.
So we're not saying they're not
Okay.
buildable, we're saying that you have some potential land use conflicts here.
Yep, you answered my question. And then I had another question about inland hazard areas. And you're saying minimal vacant lots exist within the inland hazard areas. I assume you're referring to the current ones and not the proposed.
That's correct. And I had a discussion with Division of Coastal Management about when that was going to be released. They can't give me a date on that. So, yeah.
I didn't-
This is the best information at this point.
No,
That's right.
we've got the draft ones. We have where we think it's going to be, where they proposed it, and where the CRC approved it, correct? But now it's with the state.
No, I don't think that it's been approved yet. They've actually looked at it and kind of said okay. But it's still got a lot of things it has to do. It has to go before an economic review board, and
And
it's
that's
got.
where it is now, right?
No, it's going for. It'll come up for public comments here for long, which is what we're preparing for because
Can
we've
you
got
let us
some.
know when that happens?
Yeah, yeah.
How
I'll
far
let you
is
know.
that gonna go?
It goes all the way to that first set of canals.
Is
On
all
the
the way
west
south.
But there's nothing set,
All the way to here?
Really?
they've thrown it against the wall, they like the way it looks. They've used I don't think you're gonna be able to do anything about it because they
I
actually
know,
have.
you told me you think that that's
Yeah.
what we're getting.
First time they were playing games, second time they got serious, so.
Wow.
So we
And
can,
what does that mean? I don't know
It-
that's what's happening.
you can, it's just a higher,
Insurance.
well, yes, but
No, and you're limited to 5,000.
yes,
square
that's
feet.
correct. Yes, and so you can't build as big.
And you
And I believe
can't-
there's some impervious surface.
And your insurance is
Can't
gonna go
have
back up
concrete underneath
again?
your house.
Well, their flood insurance is gonna go back up again?
I don't
If
believe
it's in
that
the
flood,
setback.
flood
It's
insurance.
got to be, to start off with, just because you're in the inlet hazard
If it's in
area,
the setback.
you still
But
have to
down that
be
way,
inside that setbacks. Now,
probably
what they've
goes.
done
Yeah.
with the new inlet hazard area is they've changed the erosion rates. They've gone back and done that at the same time, and they're gonna introduce them together. We're gonna end up with 400 and some properties compared to what we had before that's actually in an inlet hazard area. How many of those are actually affected is hard to say because until we know what their erosion rates are, we
Yeah.
don't know if they're actually in the setbacks that will trigger these restrictions.
A lot of
You can
those
be in
that
the inlet
way
hazard
will not be
area,
in the
but
setbacks.
not in the setback that sets,
That
what
way
triggers it.
will be.
Because
You're
when they
talking about
drive,
setback is like 60 feet from.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the erosion
Yeah.
rate makes the difference. It's 60 foot, and if the erosion rate is
It's
2,
5.
then that's 120. If
Yeah.
it's 4,
Yeah.
you do the
Setback
math.
from what?
From the
Sta-
mean, from the.
Stable
nat-
vegetation.
stable
Stable
Last
vegetation,
line, yeah.
Stable
So then
natural
that-
I
vegetation.
call it last
hazard
line,
area
everybody else
would-
calls it
Yeah,
first
yeah,
line, I
yeah.
think.
so the inlet hazard area would only include those areas in the setback? Because the
No, no, no,
drawing
no, no.
shows
It-
it to the road, it shows.
It is, but the setback from the first line of natural stable vegetation is where you measure that from. So if it's
Yeah.
2.5 times 60, if your house is sitting outside of that, then the restrictions do not apply. You're in the inlet hazard area. Now that could change. The restrictions could apply, and that's why the inlet hazard area is there. If the erosion beats you back to your house, then you can't increase, you know what I mean, above 5,000 square feet. So.
It's a Greek puzzle.
Okay, so.
It's
then
not
just
really
let me
Greek,
know
it's
how
actually
to-
simple compared to most of the others.
Well, and I don't know if they're modified the
there's
7H guidelines or not, but yes, there is a restriction on the home, the structure size. That's primarily, they do that so that if it needs to be moved, it can be moved. But I don't know, I do not know if they are proposing to modify the 7H guidelines that are for inlet hazard areas, but I believe
I
that
think
they
they
are.
are.
And so, as of right now,
They are.
we only, this is what we
Yeah.
got to work. Now, we can take this off if you want. It's, I'm happy
Well,
to do
I
that.
would leave
Well,
it because
I
that's
don't-
what is
I
in
don't
effect
think-
right
It's
now.
in effect right now,
Yes.
and who knows when the other,
what's
it,
there.
it's
That's
possible it
true.
never goes into effect. I'm
That's
not-
right, last
yeah.
time it
Yeah,
went far
yeah,
beyond
yeah.
where it's at now,
Yeah.
And
and I was one of the people that got up and spoke against it.
So you fixed it last time.
Well, I intend to get up and speak against it this time, and the reason being is that I don't like their sales technique. Their sales technique is they're saying we only have 4 houses that are affected. The problem is that if you become one of those houses that's sitting in the setback,
Yeah.
and you got 3,000 square feet, and you intended in the future to build 6,000, well, you can only build 5 now. So that's and to say that's not affected because you're not at 5,000 already
Right.
is misleading. Because if I was investing money, but anyway, I think it needs to stay in as it is because it will literally be like any
That is
other
what it
regulatory.
is.
That's if it changes,
We update.
then the document that remains the same.
Right.
The only thing that changes is the numbers that we have to comply with in the inlet hazard area. You're not going to take this document and change that.
And
state
we'll have our
guideline.
own map and our own regulations for that.
Yeah.
That we
Yeah,
have to
that's
abide
right.
by before we issue any permits.
And if it,
It'll
for
be more
whatever
restrictive.
reasons, if it gets fast tracked, which I do not see it happening before this
Yeah.
document's completed, it would be simple to change that. That would be the only, be real simple to change it. And we can introduce the new inlet hazard map in here if we wanted to.
Yep.
And call it an appendix.
Yeah, and we discussed that
Yeah,
if it
yeah.
gets to adoption and hadn't been adopted yet, we'll update the map.
I just know that the draft that came out, Holden Beach took a heavy hit.
I believe it, but it's still a draft, so.
So we've got between us and Ocean Isle. Ocean Isle, we took a hit. And just so y'all know, we took a hit if they changed those erosion rates on the intercoastal waterway that used to be the same as the ocean, and now they go to 5 or 6. But Ocean Isles went to 19. That means the whole end of Ocean Isle,
This end.
well, 19 times 60. There's nobody that's not gonna be,
Mhm.
No,
Well, they do have to look at it.
They do,
Well,
I've seen.
I mean, they do have a job to do, and that's what they, but I'm telling you, they used actual science this time. So,
All right.
So back to 4.
Anything else on Ford? Page 5.
there was something on 4, I don't know, where it was.
I don't have anything.
On 5, under how to use the future land use map and guidelines, so it talks about if significant changes occur or are proposed to occur. We don't have anything that's proposed right now, correct?
Oh, you asking me?
Yeah,
No, we don't have anything that's proposed. Why?
okay, just wanted to confirm. Because the pier's not really
No,
proposed?
No. Well, it says upon adoption of this plan, the planning board of commissioners and citizens of Holden Beach should reference this chapter in reviewing land use and development related decisions and policies. It says implementation. The future land use classification map should be amended if the significant changes occur or are proposed to occur, and this will aid in consistency with the changes to the town's official zoning map. And I basically saying that everybody should review the land use plan to see if it's in order, and if not, then they need to change it or make a decision on what they want to do with it. That's a good paragraph, I think.
Yeah,
I like, yeah.
I just wanted to confirm that we didn't have anything actually already proposed.
No, we've got a site plan that shows 4,000 condominiums on 2 lots. You start off large already.
I
You
didn't
tell them
hear,
what's really there.
He said
Then they don't care anymore.
ridiculousness.
I didn't hear a word he said.
4,000
When you
condos.
say 13, then they don't care.
No.
When it went
I
from
heard
4,000 to
40,
13, they
I've
don't
heard
care.
13.
He said 4,000.
Gil said 52 yesterday.
52.
All right.
Times
Or
8,
700
times 8,
feet.
right?
That's right.
That's close. Is that right?
42, I'm sorry.
4
I'm
each
getting
one?
the math wrong. 4 each one,
13
13.
times
It's
4.
42, yeah.
42, I said
42.
42. But he said he hasn't seen any money yet,
That's
so it
8
doesn't
people
matter.
per time.
I'll tell you what bothers me the most about that. I'm going to be honest, what bothers me most about that is that was a private pier that was operated for public use. People who could come, use it if they paid their money. That's going to go away.
And all that park.
That's gonna be a loss.
yeah.
I wonder,
I-
why wouldn't they?
It's going to be a
still-
loss of sand, too. Those piers hold up a tremendous
Well,
amount
they're
of
not
sand.
taking the piers down, are they? They're
No.
just gonna have it private.
It's going to
piers.
private. It's going.
Oh.
They're literally going to.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
they're not taking-
They're
It
going
might
to
come
tear
down
down.
to
You talk about a
nature,
building out
not
there. They're going
to-
to
Or
tear
they
down.
might
They
just-
wouldn't- they
or
would
they might
unlikely
decide to collect
rebuild
some money from
community
the public
pool
too.
Oh,
that goes directly to the pier.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What goes to the pier?
Oh,
The
All right.
pool will have a walkway that goes. They'll leave the pool and go to the pier.
Are they, how many bedrooms?
All right.
A lot. It's like
No.
6,000
No,
bedrooms.
each.
But don't worry.
Each.
Yeah, each. It's each 6,000
Come on,
each.
I'm just curious if they're 2 or 4.
There's.
Some of
There's.
them.
Oh, you mean bedrooms in each one?
Yeah.
There's 4 units. The engineer that was working on the project told me that they wanted to have 3, but he feels like realistically there could only be 2.
Bedrooms each.
So it'll basically be a little over 4,000 square feet with 4 units and 2 bedrooms apiece. They get 3, they're gonna be
Water's
tiny.
Edge. Over.
Yeah, it's water edge over this thing.
No, it's
Look just like the ones
No,
that's
It'll
right
be
next
just
to it.
like
Is-
that, he's saying.
Is,
It'd be one of them where you
2
walk
bedrooms, 2
in.
baths?
It's where you walk in. There's the kitchen. There's the living room, and then there's there's a little hallway.
Open.
bedroom.
Call it open concept,
That's what
right?
we had in Morehead City before we came here. Hey, Wes,
Page
let me ask you a
6.
question.
Where you
Yes,
open the
sir.
back door and the front door and a bird
Yes.
flies right
Get
through.
on something more productive.
Yes.
Page
Uh,
6.
we want to ask you something about That very first paragraph,
On which page?
of page 5,
Mhm.
5.
Same.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. The board could adopt an amendment to an ordinance that is not consistent with land use.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not.
Haven't we done that already, and then we have to just do a consistency
We have to
thing?
do a consistency statement.
Consistency
Oh, I
statement is
see.
what's required.
Right,
It doesn't
all the time
matter
we
if
do
it's
that.
consistent or inconsistent.
I'm sorry, say that again.
We do, whenever we have that come up, we
Yeah.
do a consistency statement, and that's where I bring out the little
I shouldn't
thing, and
say
we
that.
talk about,
I understand
But
that.
that's true.
Yes.
Have we ever had one
We just
that's
had it. We did.
inconsistent?
yeah,
Okay,
All the
that's fine.
time.
We just did one not too long ago.
Yeah, all the time. We just say it may be inconsistent, right? It may,
To
it
be
may
honest
not.
with you,
Maybe.
It's
Our-
just a
That's what he was
CYA.
on the board.
our, land use plan, our current land use plan is so vague that you could find anything.
There, and you can have a consistency statement that, you don't deem it inconsistent or consistent because it's not addressed.
That's right.
And it's perfectly legal as well.
Good question.
Yeah, it's still a consistency statement.
Correct.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we adopt it, and we sign it, and we send it on to the DOC, and then they also have to do a consistency statement,
Yes.
or they're supposed to.
I know we did consistency statements, I just didn't recall us doing one that said this is inconsistent.
Yeah.
Oh, inconsistent? I don't
Inconsistent.
think that we've done one that was inconsistent, do we?
I
That's
think
what I was
we have
asking.
done one that says it may be, right, inconsistent with the current land use.
I don't know. I'll look it up, and if I have one, I'll send it to you.
Well, that's okay, I just didn't know you could adopt one
Yes.
if it
it's-
was inconsistent.
Yes,
with
you
the
sure
land
can.
use.
You have to explain why you feel like it's still in the best interest
Okay,
of the
but
town.
don't send it to me, you don't have to.
Okay. So are we moving on then to 5.6?
Yep.
Okay.
I just want to make, I'm going to be taking off in 10 minutes, and there's a couple references in here against hotels. And I don't necessarily, I think when you can think of hotels like, the drug-infested hotels or their Marriotts and the like. Now the practicality of a hotel building here is with limitation on elevation and stuff
Yeah,
makes
absolutely.
it. But I don't know that there's anything inappropriate about hotels. I don't know that we've had an outcry saying we don't want hotels here. And if one would ever come and be, and if it's in our land use plan, then they'd have to go and say, wait a minute, it's inconsistent. But was it ever part of any public input that says hotels are bad, or?
I thought that there was. I'm pretty sure we had plenty of open-ended comments speaking to precisely that. That there's no hotels, there's limited hotels, resorts, etc., and they want it all family-friendly residential. Now, if you guys feel like we need
No,
to change it,
that's fine, as long as if there's adequate documentation to support it, that's fine.
Yeah, I highlighted the same thing. What did we base that comment on? New construction of beach resorts and hotels/motels were inappropriate uses.
I mean, I've been in, I just got back from Cocoa Beach. Now, it's a bold established and nothing like this. But I mean, there are nice apartment complexes, hotels, and I don't know that one necessarily impacts the other. And then my second comment was the statement in here that based on Strub, Palmer, Imper concerns about multifamily development. In lieu of, I don't know, having a building, I don't know why multifamily, when it's done properly in compliance with code, would be any different than, like, we're talking about the pier, if they're stacking houses there, or apartment, it's equally devastating. I don't know that one is any worse than necessarily the other.
Is this based on comments though from the public input?
Well, he's looking
That's
at the
what
survey.
that's what I'm asking you. If it's coming from, but I don't recall it. That's why and it seems that there's negative connotations to both of those elements
Well,
that are
yeah.
part of this thing that I want to make sure that it was adequately documented before we.
we can take out those references. Multifamily in terms of what kinds of new private development would you like to see on Holden Beach? Multifamily was far and away the lowest. We had 1.57% compared. I mean, the next highest was, then we had senior housing at 4.15, then we jump up to much higher. So compared to low density single family at 48.6, small businesses at 44.56, entertainment at 38.5, which was restaurants, recreation, theaters, and nightlife. So I mean, and you guys got the open-ended responses as well, correct?
Yes.
There was, and I don't have them in front of me right now, an abundant number of comments speaking to those two items. However, you guys are the steering committee, so
Well-
if you feel like that needs to be changed, we can change that.
Well, once again, I think we're getting into that where we're trying to finite, and you know what I mean? I think that this document represents what he's talking about. I think it does represent what we already see and what we hear in the committees and what we get from feedback from the public. I think this document represents exactly that. That's from our department, you know. So I'm just saying that I don't know that the document as it reads now is off from the information that I get from the public. So I'm just saying that.
So you're saying we should leave hotels and motels in here?
As being
Undesirable.
undesirable.
That's right.
I'd like to comment to that, though I don't think this is the place to discuss it. Maybe it will be an open hearing, but if you have 13 50-foot lots at the pier and you build 13 11-bedroom homes, you're going to have a lot more density than you will have in a motel or hotel or the complex that they're talking about. And that can be easily done as the way we're building now because they're everywhere.
And they be limited to, likely limited to 5,000 square feet because of the
Setback.
I think they probably would.
I don't know how
What
deep
setback?
those lots are. Yeah, it'd be
20,
120.
29.
It'd be 120 feet times the erosion rate if they're over 5,000.
The inlet here, where?
I don't know.
But
Okay.
But anyway,
but
There's
That's
other
the
factors.
point.
There's other factors in there that drive it too. For
But-
instance, it's become awful hard to have a motel on oceanfront
yeah,
on
but
this beach compared to other beaches that have a bigger buffer, larger buffer outside the V zone.
Yeah, but
The
I-
cost of construction for a motel where the pier is at, I don't know that it would be an expensive structure. I promise you.
Oceanal has a beautiful one, just right of the pier, of their pier. I don't know the name of it, I can't remember, but it's very nicely done.
so there is a discussion about those incompatible commercial-oriented single-family rental homes in here as a separate item. But if we, it's up to you guys. I don't have a dog in this fight, so
no, but it gets back into all of our, today, the most valuable use of existing commercial property is frankly to convert it to residential. And we talked about this last planning and zoning meeting, and the next thing you know, will be all residential. And for an aging population that would like to walk and buy, eat out and the like, it's going to become more difficult. But it's a dilemma, I think.
Are we on 5-6 now? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because I had a thought that I wanted to share if we were on it.
Yeah, that's where.
Yes, we're on
Yeah.
5-6. They were trying to. I mean, I think it's perfectly appropriate on 5-7 to have inappropriate uses of multifamily residential would be commercial or hotels and motels because it doesn't fall under that color code, right?
sorry, where are you on the top of 5.7?
So if we're looking at 5.7, multifamily residential, and you say, first of all, desired uses, I would like to see desired uses in the order that your survey says, right? Which would be single family first, and then those bullets should be in the order that came from the survey.
Instead
Which
of
you just read
reverse.
out,
You just
48%,
got
blah, blah,
reverse.
blah, blah.
Yes, That's true. Now, the only reason why it has it that way is this would be within the established multifamily. Now, if you guys are desire to have the multifamily convert to single family, then absolutely, then we should have those reversed.
Yeah, because down in residential, it lists single family first.
Yeah.
And then what I'm saying is that the inappropriate use of a multifamily residential is obviously commercial or hotels because we're talking about multifamily. So we would
Right.
already rule out. So it's appropriate to have that there in this section, and nobody can dispute that.
Sure.
Because we're not talking about commercial, so those things are okay. We don't want hotel, we don't want commercial in a multifamily designation.
Correct.
And the same thing with the next one, with residential, it wouldn't, because those would be inappropriate for those.
How about on the previous page on 5.5?
But there's where it could
Yes.
be, there's where you could argue that maybe we should take that off of there, because it is
Well,
commercially zoned.
that's why I was asking you.
Yes, so,
I'm with you.
I don't, yeah.
That's
I mean, if
Maybe-
somebody built a hotel,
It's
Tim,
not inappropriate.
3
For
stories high,
commercial.
they could go.
that's perfectly fine. I'm, you know,
30, it'd be 31 feet from the BFE,
Most-
unless they got an exemption for the 9 foot that we had.
Okay, so
Then it
it's
gets a
not-
little more
honestly, what I'd
complicated.
like to see in there as inappropriate is the liquor store. I mean, you talk about gas stations and all this big box stuff, but I don't think it's appropriate. I think I'd like to put in the land use that it's inappropriate for a family-friendly beach to have that, whatever that
How
ABC
much
store
is
is that they.
Are you aware of
Like-
how much revenue it could bring
You've
in to
never
offset
gonna
your
get
taxes?
it.
Okay, so that's a different
Just saying.
conversation.
We
That's
Asian
a
people
different-
need that.
We could put parking lots on the whole beach and charge them for that too, and we'd make a lot of money. But is it appropriate for our friendly?
But you're only talking
beach
about one
community?
lot for a liquor store, you're not talking about the whole beach.
Liquor
Oh,
store.
you could have a
Yep.
gas station would only be one lot, and so would a big box retail store. Let's put a McDonald's there. It's only one lot.
Lord,
So you're saying we shouldn't have a liquor store up here on,
Oh, you can have whatever you want off island. I don't
Well,
think
it
it
is.
should
We
be
don't have
on. Then we're talking about on island right
oh,
here.
okay, okay.
Why
I
not?
thought
Inappropriate
you were-
uses.
I thought you were,
Inappropriate uses of our beach land.
I agree with that, I thought you were saying the
No,
one
no,
on there
no.
on Holden Beach
Oh,
Road.
No, I don't care what they do over there.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood
Oh,
you
no,
as
no,
well.
no. I'm just saying, if we're gonna put in here inappropriate
Sometimes you have
uses
to slow it down.
on the island, right? They're saying no manufacturing, no gas stations with drive-through,
Rhonda, do
and
you
no,
think it'd
and
be
now they're
possible
saying
that I
beach
could get
resorts, and
another
I'm saying
water?
an
Oh, yeah.
inappropriate
Thank
use would
you.
be an ABC store for
where
commercial.
you get?
I need one.
And I'd like to
Or
see that in the
vacation.
land use plan.
I tell you to run by the liquor store, but we don't have
Water.
one.
Please.
Rhonda, beer.
I don't do
no, that doesn't mean it'll get a lot longer. That
I understand that. Well, okay, some of them might think it's okay to have a gas station or a manufacturing facility in
Let's just
commercial.
talk about the
Yeah,
liquor
the
store. That's what you brought up.
5121.
Well, I'm saying, where do we get in this
Extra-
stuff about what's inappropriate? Because my inappropriate may not be
Extra
yours,
two,
obviously.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing that.
Okay, that was the only one.
I think it's totally inappropriate to have a liquor store next to a
That was my
daycare.
only one. I don't know how that.
Why?
It was a hot on the survey.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
the whole thing is like a hot
What I
topic.
wanted to say on 5.6 for whoever
Hey,
cares.
don't
I'm
pay
listening.
attention.
Sorry.
Implementation considerations, prohibition of commercial encroachment on existing residential neighborhoods. Now, this is 5.6.
Yeah.
Implementation considerations,
Is there a
prohibition of
handout?
commercial encroachment on existing
I have to take
residential
all.
neighborhoods. If I recall correctly, Wes just recited some stats from that public input where small shops and
No, but I left the
restaurants and
meeting.
things like that were things that people were looking for more
Thank-
in terms of land use development.
But in there, so this is, I don't think that you would like those in the midst of your neighborhood, however, in an established neighborhood. So this would be, you know, remember, and let's back up a couple steps here. One, this is draft. Two, this is based on my general understanding of the public's desires at large.
Thank you.
Based on the survey results, the community input meeting as well. And so, but this is then subject to you guys' consultation on whether or not we need to refine it further. So this would be a big picture desired land use pattern for the town based on what we understand the citizens want. Limited multifamily development. The survey says limited hotel to development. Those things. Commercial, we want it where it is now, and these are the uses of commercial that we want. Now, if the town wanted to proceed with furthering that implementation, they can make it more difficult for other commercial uses to locate here and make it easier for things that you wanted to be here. For example, that would be a way that you could proceed with that. That's sort of just giving you, the land use plan is not your zoning ordinance. The land use plan is just our sort of guess at what folks want to see happen. And so, but that being said, again, we need to refine it to reflect what this committee wants. But that is what that future land use shows.
So it caught my attention without knowing that statistic and all that consideration. And I guess as a member of this committee, I'm just going to have my voice out there on record as saying I think it might be nicer overall to have sporadic commercial locations throughout the island, just small pockets, like mom and pop store down in the West End, or bookstore somewhere in the middle of the neighborhood, or someplace to pick up snacks over here near the waterway, or just that kind of finer grain development versus like wide swaths of things in one location. That's just my thanks for this.
We don't really have that much commercial
That's right.
left out there anyway, so I mean, it's kind of a...
That would call for rezoning.
Yes.
And call
all
it
right,
for
okay.
rezoning, spot zoning, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be awesome.
Maybe they could zone a lot next to me and they could build an ABC store.
Well, I can tell you this, you cannot have somebody walk in here and say, I would like to rezone X lot commercial, and you go, well, you're not going to have this, and this, but you can have this. If you have this, then we'll rezone it. Because that is spot zoning, and that is illegal. You have to rezone it for everything that's allowed in that zone under law, and you can't even question what's going there.
Right.
So should we even have the inappropriate uses?
Well,
in
what I'm
there?
saying is that y'all are going too far into this. There is nothing in this document that does not allow for what he just said. There's nothing here that doesn't allow for what he just said.
Absolutely.
There's
Now, my
nothing
question-
here
But
that
we
says
listed this not only reduced and it says prohibition of commercial encroachment on existing residential neighborhoods.
Now,
That's like a stop sign, right?
yes. Now, again, that's based on some of the survey results. Very clear that folks do not want additional commercial zoning. But we can take that. I'm perfectly happy to take that, pull it out.
One of my boys heard it, so
Yeah.
I did change it.
Well, I think there's some other. I remember one person telling me that they didn't want to see a lot of commercial further down the beach because of the amount of traffic that it would bring in. It would add to the traffic. So there are a whole lot of mind thoughts in there. Once again, this doesn't stop it.
Yeah, absolutely, it doesn't.
It doesn't stop.
I have a question for you regarding the C1. Is this where we would put something in there about the changes that we're talking about with the buffering and?
Well, that's actually, I read that he actually has a multifamily residential. He talks about
Buffering and landscape.
buffering and landscaping, which is not an uncommon thing between commercial and residential structures of any type. You know what I mean? Not dependent upon building requirements, but zoning requirements of commercial and residential.
Well, I'm just wondering, isn't this something that we would want to put in our land use?
And at the end of
It's there.
on 5.6, adequate buffering should be applied where development within this land use category.
Implementation
Oh,
consideration.
Yeah.
gotcha. Yep.
it's there.
Okay, I didn't even see it. Okay, great. Okay, now I've got another one. You've got in here a couple of times, parking for new construction and redevelopment may be limited in favor of increased bicycle and pedestrian access and age-friendly design.
Where are you?
I am reading right off the second line
Yep.
of the commercial at the top, and
And
then
5-6.
Also, under implementation considerations, reduce parking standards for redevelopment/new construction.
So one of the things that, if you guys want some of these smaller restaurants, venues like that, one of the problems that they often have is parking. And, so and that is a multifaceted issue. But, if you want to encourage some of these type uses, it would behoove you to look at your parking ratio table, and if there is, for example, for a change of use, and they're not modifying the actual use, the building in terms of square footage, etc., don't require any additional parking, don't require any parking at all. I don't know what you decide, but that is incredibly valuable to business owners, and what often stymies development in these beach communities.
I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, but I do have the concern that our island is this long, narrow stretch.
Yes.
And when we pull in to any commercial development, as much as we would like everybody to bike, people are going to drive, and they're going to have a place to park.
So you may need to. That's right. Well, they won't drive.
But they won't visit the establishment.
So it's a chicken and egg thing. So the other part of that is, figuring out where additional parking needs to be given. I'm not saying that you need to do it, but I'm saying if you want to encourage some of these things, this would be a helpful direction.
Well, unless you change your zoning ordinance
That's what
from its current,
Yeah.
it's going to limit exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
In other words, it's going to limit, you can approve commercial all over the island, but it's going to limit based on the amount of parking spaces they have. Because only in commercial areas and only in those designated do we allow for sharing of parking based off of the fact that nobody's going to be able to meet them. You would have to buy a tremendous amount of property on oceanfront to put a motel unless you found that one piece, you know what I mean, to either be able to provide enough parking, which is what somebody else said. The parking requirements are much different between a house and a commercial property, like a motel or hotel.
Is Holden Beach subject to the Brunswick County UDO?
No.
Please, let's stay away from it.
Absolutely.
But implicit in this statement is that we want more bicycles and golf carts on Ocean Boulevard.
Right.
And I sure don't.
Well,
Well, if they had an appropriate lane for them,
Well, if
that
they
would
had
be
one.
fine.
That'd be
So
fine.
yes, I think the statement's fine, but you have to have the proper implementation
We're
for
gonna be-
those uses.
But we've got a document, we write the document, okay? And then I'm gonna go further into it. So now we have the document. Tim takes the document and I go to DOT and say, look, Nag's Head on the right-hand side of the road has a designated bike path. They actually have a designated sidewalk
Off-street,
on the
yeah.
left-hand side and a bike path on the right-hand side. They put the bike path in the right-of-way. I measured it. I actually stopped while I was up there for the camo stuff and got out and measured it because I was like, crap, they don't have any more room than we do, but they have a bike path and a sidewalk. Now, guarantee you DOT paid for that or did it under a grant, worked with them under a grant to get it. So now it's in compliance. It would actually be in good faith with our Cameron land use plan if we took up such a project.
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying is that you can't finite what you're trying to do in the plan. You just got to leave it where you can work with
So
it.
can I make a suggestion for this thing of, can we say example desired uses and example undesirable uses instead of inappropriate?
Sure.
Because that's a little strong and we haven't really established, and then just change that throughout, and then it doesn't mean that you can't do that. We're just giving you an example of what might not be undesirable in all the sections.
Yeah, I'm fine to do that.
But do y'all want to reduce parking standards for redevelopment, new construction?
I don't. I'm really concerned.
That's fine.
No, we don't.
I just know our community, and I just know we're drivers.
Well,
Yeah.
I understand. So just remember, you got the one thing in the survey that says you want these things, but
No,
you've
I
got
hear
a
you.
regulatory
I want the
burden.
restaurants and all that stuff too.
Okay, let's
But
take it
I
out.
also know that unless it's within
Well, this
a
is in
mile.
conflict. That comment right there is in conflict with about at least 3 known factors that we have going on in the town right now.
So we're not saying we don't want to do the inclusion of the bicycles. We're just saying
The top,
We
the
don't-
top
this
one,
is the
reduce
first
parking
bullet,
for.
yeah.
I tell you right there, you take that out, because if you don't, the commissioner's gonna take that out.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's out.
Yeah.
Everyone okay with the examples of desired and examples
Yep.
of undesired?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Okay.
So just confirm it, that.
We're taking out redeem.
Due to high land
Wes, I
value.
think that
is
if
when you're
our,
taking that.
if our
Yes.
island, sorry,
Oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Okay.
I didn't know you were talking about him.
I'm
I
sorry,
was just-
are we gonna take out that second sentence in the first paragraph too?
Yeah,
In addition to the first bullet point under implementation considerations.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, that almost reads backwards to me.
Okay. So we'll take that out.
Wait, the due to high land value?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Parking for new construction may
Hold
be limited in favor of increased, well, I don't care one way or the other.
My comment only was that if you were in a community that was probably a deeper island, it'd be, and you were more mixed in there, it'd be more appropriate, but that's not our island.
Town of Topsail Beach just helped them update their zoning ordinance, and they modified their parking ratio criteria. 0 parking required for change of use redevelopment. And then if you increase the size of the structure above 25%, that triggers your parking ratio. And they are about possibly not as wide as you. But yes, that's
Okay.
that. But that was their position.
I have a whole lot of questions on that. I would love to know
Say
some of
that
those
again.
answers to my questions.
0.
Yes.
So you can put a commercial building in and have 0 parking, is that what you just said?
Or the same amount of-
Redevelopment or change of use, not new construction. So what they want to do is help their existing businesses and so forth continue to exist. Now, a lot of theirs, they go right up to the edge of the right of way, just similar to here.
Right.
So they have limited off-street
So
parking availability.
So they're changing, the actual use itself didn't trigger different parking?
It does, but they're saying that if you don't expand the building,
So,
despite the use,
so if I take a kite store, manage to turn it into an A1 assembly restaurant, I ain't got to have no more parking?
that is correct.
Holy smokes.
I don't want to go there.
Well, yeah, it doesn't
Now
really
that-
matter
now they
because
have-
it's
now they
viable
also
for
have-
the business to
they have-
stay in business with no parking.
They also, because now those residents, they wanted the same things you guys do. And they made that decision, and it may backfire. But they also have public on-street parking available as
Makes a
well.
big difference.
Which
Yeah.
we don't.
Right.
See, they're
That's the
sharing, they're
big
sharing
difference.
parking,
Yeah,
which is what we're doing,
Right.
which is not uncommon for these small, but we don't have that much
Well, we
public
do some
on-street
of that
parking.
over there by the
That's
two
all shared.
restaurants. Right,
That's all
that's where
shared.
we do some of what you're just saying. We
Yeah.
have public parking in those 2 restaurants.
And
we use
so
it.
there is a caveat there, I believe, and it's only in one district, or it's only in their central business district, but
Oh, well, that'd be a different, we could do that.
We
You
sure
know,
could.
But, I mean, I'm talking island-wide, you know.
we only have commercial in a certain area.
Right.
And that's where the only place this would be apply. But let's take it out if it's in conflict and move on.
I think it's in
Okay.
conflict with our current ordinances, I think.
Okay, moving
But I
on.
understand the concept. I do understand it, but I don't know why uses doesn't trigger parking and not,
Because that's what the problem is, because that change of use, that building
can't go from one
will
thing to the other.
sit vacant.
I agree, I understand
Yeah.
that.
Yep, yep.
Going from one to another, it
Yeah.
can be very
That's
difficult.
where the problem, yeah.
Like our kite store.
That store, that building needs to go away. Why I let that one stand when I took out all the rest of them, I don't know. But I've got my eyeball on it.
No,
Well, I'll be watching.
God, I can't stand that thing.
All right,
Okay, 5-7.
5-7. We're gonna switch, put single family on top, and then duplex, and then multifamily.
And then you're gonna change example and example.
Yep, example throughout. Example desired, example undesired,
Yes.
undesirable. Anything else on 5-7?
I say move on.
Now, I don't, and I'm sorry to go back here, but did we ever arrive on what we wanted to do. Greg, you had a comment about the prohibition of commercial encroachment. Is that statement coming out?
No, I don't think it is.
Okay.
I mean, it just seems like it's pretty strongly worded, but.
Well, I think we should, could it say discourage or something along those lines, or it doesn't need to say, prohibition means it's not
No.
gonna happen.
That's right.
Forbidden, yeah.
Well,
basically.
but this is again, you know,
Not legally.
it's a
binding.
land, it's a land
And it
use
says
plan.
only consideration,
Well,
the
if-
implementation
I'll be up-
consideration, it doesn't.
Well,
Look, can we change that to a word that's a little
Discouragement.
more, yeah, something that's a little more, there might be a better word out there.
discouragement.
Because you have people who are doing our rules and regulations, and they are referring to this.
We will refer to this anytime we make a change of some
Right,
type,
that's what I'm
or
saying.
someone comes in and wants to do something that's,
Questionable.
well,
Okay.
I mean, if somebody wanted to come in and buy a whole bunch of lots and, you know what I mean, start subdividing and doing some other things, they're gonna have a whole lot of hoops they gotta jump through.
So, okay, we'll put in discouragement here, and then, and the reason why I mention that is on the bottom of 5.7 under residential, encroachment of multifamily residential or commercial development shall be prohibited in the residential future land use category.
So we gotta get rid of that.
I don't know, just,
Where is that?
The
Oh,
bottom of the
relax.
residential paragraph.
Yeah.
Infill single-family duplexes.
Shall be discouraged, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Shall be prohibited, right, discouraged.
Okay.
The word find in this thing.
That's right. So we're gonna change inappropriate and.
Yep.
Yep.
All those be changed throughout.
5.8?
Back on 5.7, I know you talk about somewhere else in here about the homes that I think you called it large homes are used in a commercial nature, basically the big home issue.
Mhm.
Should we put anything in under residential here about that?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea for an example of undesirable.
Commercial oriented rental homes.
Yeah. Right? Everyone,
Yep,
Mhm.
that's
Okay.
fair.
that was good.
Good luck with that, but
Yeah.
Well, at least it's there.
what became of our stuff?
you're on my list to talk to today. It's in your report. You're supposed to have been taking it to the VSE, and it was not on this month's agenda. So I was going to ask you today, do you want me to
No, I'll do it.
put it on the agenda for you? I'll be glad to do that.
No, I'll do it.
You already have the presentation done, and it was a great presentation.
Yeah, no, I don't know what happened. I kept thinking,
No.
I think something happened. There was something, I think I think I was asked to kick it down one, and I forgot after that. We had a meeting that was so full that it got kicked down, and then I think I missed it this time. It was supposed to be on the meeting
Okay.
last week. Yeah.
No, you're on my list. I'm in full wedding mode. I've got lists on top of lists right now.
Look,
And
I got
you're on
my
list.
wedding stuff today too. I got my bill today too. So.
All right. Page 8.
Yep.
All right.
Probably not what you want to talk about. Weddings.
Okay.
Page 9.
We sure knocked down the parks and piers and docks and conservation.
On 5.1, I again had a little note, insert the large home language in there.
But isn't that covered previously? We got that already in here,
Okay.
and then we're going to have an ordinance. We hope.
Okay.
On objective 5.1.
Objective 5.1.
Yeah, I would say that would be. I think let's go with the one that we have in here on policy 5.1I,
Yeah. That's
and
the one I
we'll
was,
get to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then under the commercial development, hotels, motels, and beach resorts are strongly discouraged on the island.
Sorry, where?
I'm sorry,
5.1D.
5.1D.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Are we taking that up? Is that what you're saying?
We're gonna take off.
I want them to match.
5.1B is wrong. 5.1.B is wrong.
It's not correct.
That's not correct. Town shall limit commercial height to 35 feet. I think that's right. And then residential is 31 from the DFE.
All right.
Those are the height limitations. Sorry.
C1
That's
is 35 foot?
Yeah, it's 35 feet from the DFE, and then residential is 31 from the DFE.
Is it true that the town does not support expanding the limits of the commercial zoning? Seeing as how we can build houses on commercial lots.
Well, that's the opposite. That would
Yeah.
be changing a resident to a commercial. That's what they're saying you don't encourage.
I'm just saying, what if all the commercial lots are taken up with houses? Then there's no more commercial?
Well, I think that's what we've all been talking about, that's where it's all going, because that's what
Okay.
works
Is that-
financially.
Okay. It seems a little unhealthy for a town to have super little commercial, you know?
Well, I think all the commercial is supposed to be on the other side of the bridge, right, on the causeway.
Yeah,
Agree with that.
we're weird in that aspect. If we were a bigger beach, we'd probably have more commercial. But what it was that has always been considered, still to this day, if you were to ask the residents of Brunswick County, true residents, if that's at Holden Beach, and they think it is. I mean, it's just the way it's split up. And there was very little effort to gain it, I guess, because of family or whatever, prior to the new annexation laws, and the new annexation laws will make it impossible.
Is there any way that this could be fuel for not allowing someone to change their zoning?
To rezone?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, now I believe this statement was in the last land use plan as well, and I bet it goes back to the previous one before that and the previous one before that. But if
Well, it goes, here it is.
if there's if the town got conditional zoning and you knew exactly, for example, what use it was going to be, it was a small restaurant or something, and it was in a location along along Ocean Boulevard somewhere that wasn't going to mess up the neighbors, then you guys would say, look, it's inconsistent with our land use plan, but based on X, Y, Z, we want it.
Okay.
Well, I don't think that policy 5.1.d precludes you from doing that. The last sentence says intense commercial development beyond that necessary to serve tourists and residents is not encouraged. It says hotels, motels, and beach resorts are strongly discouraged on the island. But neither one says that you can't have them. Neither one of them actually says that if it's for the particular uses, like if, then it would be encouraged, and it goes to what you said. People don't want an ABC store, it would be discouraged as commercial. So I think it really leaves the door open for the planning board and the board of commissioners to do their jobs and decide what they want on the beach.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was in the other one, by the way, that stuff.
Yep.
was.
Okay, 5.9, move on to 5.10.
Okay, I had a question on 5.1.m marinas. The town shall not allow upland excavation for marinas. Can you expand on that?
That would mean that if you are digging out, basically, and this would be a true CAMA major permit consistency review.
It's 2 years to get it.
This would be where you were literally digging out, like if behind us you
Yeah.
dug out to the water tower for a marina, for an example, that would be upland excavation.
Okay.
versus just putting finger docks out. But if you guys want, this is,
I was just wondering why we discouraged it if somebody wanted to put a marina in.
they certainly can. But
This is not a governing document, right?
Well, it
But-
would have to be within accordance to CAMA, so.
Right.
well, but this could stop it. Now, based on my understanding of you guys' public input, your preference for environmental conservation, natural habitat, etc., that's why this is in here. But if this is contrary to the committee's desires, then let's strike it.
We have one small upland, and that's in Seaside, Windy River.
That was an upland one.
They
the one you're
excavated, they
Yeah,
excavated there,
Okay.
and the marina's behind the seawall, basically.
So I kind of like to have it struck out and just leave it.
That's fine. Yep.
Yay or nay. I mean, it can be decided when it comes to the town
Yeah.
to get a permit or whatever. I mean, they're gonna have to
Yeah.
jump through hoops for the CAMA and stuff anyway.
Bridgewater's docks and piers are considered a marina. When we did that, we had to get a major count. It took 2 years to do that.
Was there upland excavation?
I don't remember any excavation,
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I think there was for those.
but it's still a marina in so many words.
It's just two different things, and the impacts are,
Less.
yes. And it's not only that. I mean, you could conceivably, you could have a marina next to you all of a sudden rather than land, for example.
What defines a marina?
I thought the-
Fuel?
Or
No, you
just
don't
put,
have that fuel for a
you
marina.
don't, just,
Non-commercial marina.
now, it wouldn't necessarily bother me, but I, just want to make sure. Let's take it out, though.
I think we should
Yeah.
take it out.
Well, hold on to that
Mhm.
thought, not just that, but I could have sworn the last CAMA document that we had discouraged marinas.
It did, and this has been, and I don't have it in front of me.
The last CAMA or the last land?
Or I
The
thought-
last land use plan discouraged marinas, I thought.
Yes, and my understanding is that there's been that is something that it is desirable, especially adjacent to our commercial zoning districts, to allow for marinas and boat dockage. It certainly is a compatible use adjacent to your commercial zoning districts. Not going to be disturbing anybody.
Right. What's wrong with allowing people to come and go to use our commercial dining
Yeah.
facilities if they could come on their boat?
We like St. James, kind of.
So are is it the kid, because you're changing,
That was dug out.
that's
Yeah.
a 360-degree change from not wanting marinas or discouraging
What
marinas.
was the survey, any input on that, do you remember?
I'm just saying that if that's what
Negative
the
or
committee
positive?
wants,
I mean, I don't remember anything.
I'm not sure why we discouraged marinas before.
Right, so I would say just because they did
My
it
gosh,
before.
Yes,
we're a water island.
Exactly, we should be
But it was
encouraging
literally
water
discouraged, if I
stuff.
remember correctly. I don't think this is a bad thing, I'm just saying that
And I think it
the
was,
discussion should be had in case the question gets asked. Because I'm gonna promise you, somebody's on this beach don't wanna see a marina, I'm gonna know why we changed, because I'll have to answer that question.
So I can see them not wanting one where you have to excavate land
Yeah.
to get the marina, but if you put finger docks out there in the water, what's wrong with that?
But just take that last line off. I'm just saying that
Yeah, I would
we
take
need to
it
be
out.
aware that we've just turned that around 360 degrees, I think.
Hallelujah.
It also
Well,
rolls
I don't know
down.
that's a
Actually,
bad
you can
thing.
only turn 180. If you turn 360,
You're right back where you started.
I mean, it's just not true also, right? To say that the town shall not allow.
Woody, I hate to say this, but you're right.
So we're gonna take that last line off?
I know it hurts you, man.
It's killing me.
I feel
Yeah.
your pain.
what, 51M1?
Yes, the
Yeah,
last
the next
line.
page. Well, the
Last
next
line.
page, up at the top.
Yeah, the next page says that update the town zoning ordinance with marina land use and development regulations, however you guys want to handle it.
Is there an ordinance against Is there an ordinance that says we cannot have marinas?
I don't think there's an ordinance against it,
There's
it's just
storage
discouraged.
you can't have.
Huh?
It talks about stack storage.
So there's two different things. That said the town supports the development of marina now. That's what it says. And then in order to do that, we should update the ordinance, is what you think.
Well, we probably don't have a
It's not very
marina
clear.
like as a land use
It's not.
activity.
That's correct.
So we're probably going to have to, the planning board's going to want to probably, once we approve the document, add something with
Right.
some parameters. Like,
Yes.
you don't
Right.
want to,
Absolutely.
you probably don't want
So
to
I
have,
think that's a good recommendation.
yeah, you probably don't want the USS Destroyer parked there.
Right.
That would have what's his name?
Yes.
So you probably want to write some rules. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
So that's good recommendation.
That's 180 degrees
It's a
to
to-do,
here,
it's a to-do.
Right.
and then 180 degrees again for the rewrite the ordinance. That's 360 degrees. I knew I could be right somehow.
Yes. You
What do you try
allow
again?
docks,
That's right.
and so that's could be expanded.
Okay, good.
Now that we're on 511, is that right?
Did we get to 511?
We're on
Did you have
511.
We
Let's stop
just
with
got
that.
to 511. I had a question about recommended action 51P1. Is the ETJ still on the table?
I saw that too. I was wondering who
I
else
did
would bring
too.
it up.
What is that again? They remind me of the ETJ?
It's a lot of work for me.
What is
Yeah.
ETJ?
That would be
I know, that's extraterrestrial. Well,
Extraterritorial jurisdiction.
What
So
does
you
that
brought it
mean?
up- You brought
For
it
the
up,
causeway. We-
said several months ago that might be a possibility, is it?
No, I didn't say it's a possibility. I said unless the law's changed, you're entitled to it if the county wants to give it up.
yeah,
Okay.
which they
But you
may
can't.
not. Yeah.
And the county may not. And what would happen is that they would get the feedback from over there, because just so you understand, we would regulate land uses, but the planning board would have to have members from over there. And then that is when you have to have a planning board. Right now, we don't have to have one by law.
I think we do.
But you have to have.
I think we do have to.
Well, I'm just telling you how it used to be, because I've been in both places. And I've been where they didn't have a planning board, and the minute the ETJ became part of it, they had to have a planning board, because you have to have members from the people from the ETJ to be on it. And then it's a whole different thing, because now when you write a
It's a
land
whole
use with the
different
planning
flavor,
board,
for sure.
the board of commissioners has to be real careful, because they have no representation over there.
That's correct.
So it changes all the rules.
Yep.
But you only can enforce land usage. You can't, your regulatory
General code.
rules,
Okay.
like parking, and that will go over there for land use. You know what I mean? To control the corridor to your town, but stuff, regulatory rules like, lots and,
Nuisance.
nuisance ordinances and those kinds of things. Anything outside the land use section will not apply.
And what's the advantage to doing that?
Well, based on, and again, this is an action based on your survey results and
Yes,
the
I
number of
understand why
folks.
people aren't
Everybody's
happy
crazy
with the
about that.
appearance of that. But what's the advantage? Because we get to regulate them and control what they look like, we think.
Correct.
But what's the disadvantage? Now they get to have input into all of our stuff,
Do we get their taxes?
because they have to be on our board.
No.
He just
Yeah.
said we have to have
That- that-
representation.
they're only
And we
on
don't
your
get any of the
planning.
tax money from
Okay.
them.
Sure,
We're
they're-
talking about EJ.
They're only on your planning board. They're not elected officials. They can't run for office, anything like that. They just need proportional representation. So there may be one person on, but again, this takes there's a whole bunch of stuff that has to happen before it were ever to take place. But
Don't you also have to provide certain town services? There's
I thought you had to provide.
I
some
would need to
service.
I would need to pull the statute.
3 or
but
4 of the major services, I think you
I
have to
can't
provide.
recall off the top of my head.
One of them's
but-
building inspections, one of them's police.
Police.
I used to know what all of them were, but there's 4 of them that you have to
Yeah.
provide.
But if you got, again, you're the committee, let's take this out if you feel like.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying explore options.
Okay.
I mean, what harm is that, right? It
Yeah.
gives the option to investigate it, but you haven't decided anything.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, I just didn't know if that was, I raised it, because I didn't
No,
know
it's a
if
good-
that was
It's a good,
a priority.
Well,
lot of people are
but you
unhappy
know,
with what the
it's-
causeway
it's-
looks like.
the causeway
and I think
is
that was
annexed
in the
into
survey results.
Ocean Island. They
And I
annexed
think
that
that's what's
causeway.
driving that.
Was it
Sure it
ETJ,
But,
do you know?
but I think
I don't think
we
they
have to
had any. I think
They
investigate.
had ETJ as
Well,
their
you know
what not to
potential
do.
areas, and the
It might make
causeway,
us
I
in a worse
believe,
situation
is their
than
jurisdiction.
we are now.
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I don't know.
We were annexed at one time.
But I
What
think
was?
that went back
We were annexed
to
at
water
one
and
time.
sewer
Nobody
services
here
that were
remembers
provided
it
way
probably.
before.
What, we annexed the causeway?
Yes,
Um,
we annexed the causeway
And then we did.
for one cycle. And the next board that came in, you remember that we're on
That was before me.
the next cycle of commissioners unannexed,
Yeah.
de-annexed. I remember that like it was yesterday. My God, what a mess.
All right,
Gotcha.
4-7.
Okay,
All right.
let's roll. So we're gonna keep that in to explore options?
Yeah, I'll look at it for about 10 seconds. Go ahead.
We did it.
We did it.
On recommended action 5.1.Q.2, we don't have cable access channel anymore.
It says and other methods to keep citizens informed.
Yeah, but you need to take it out if you don't have it.
Air balloon.
All right.
Was that voted down and it was on the table, I thought.
I think it keeps coming up, but it's expensive.
All right. Anything else?
So was everything else.
Okay?
Hold on a second.
Have we been doing the review of the current land plan every 2 years?
No.
Most places don't. It's
I mean, we got in
required.
here to do it every 2 years.
It's and we're. I'm not saying you have to, but you didn't hear it from me.
We haven't done it in what, 10?
I,
10.
You don't have to.
you're
Do
supposed
it
to.
then.
Well, it says an updated land use plan every 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, but
That's not required
5.1R says.
No, that's not required.
year-
That's not required either.
Right?
7B guidelines say that you're supposed to send an implementation status report.
Yeah, you don't have to.
The number of communities that I know that do that consistently,
That's it.
These originally was for every 5 years. I
Yeah.
thought back in the 2000s, you had to
It's
review
very
it.
popular.
And we want to leave 5.1R in there, because it is a policy.
I put it in there, particularly if you guys want to apply for planning grants in the future. Send in your implementation status report and send in your land use plan.
Okay.
This is not a big deal. I mean, we can do this.
Oh,
We
wow.
should
Yeah,
do
it's
this.
pretty easy. We've helped.
We hadn't done it.
I'm on it.
We've helped a number of
I like
This
communities.
is so old.
And plus, once
I think you should
once
too.
we get done with this,
I think y'all
it'll
should
be
do it
much
too.
easier,
Especially
right?
5 years from now.
Should
Don't
do
you
it.
run it?
Yeah. Every 2 years, it
least
would be hardly.
5 years from now, I think y'all should do it
I've done them before
again.
to help people
Great.
get grants, so it's fine. Not a big deal. All right. Anything else?
That's it.
I think it's great.
All right. Those changes will be made. In advance of your next meeting. Excuse me. Okay. So to
Get 1
and
through
that
4
is,
today.
Sorry. The review should say review chapter 1 through 4 revised. My apologies. And then you will have submitted to you this revised chapter based on comments today.
Okay.
And then we're meeting again on the 25th next time we meet. Okay?
Got it.
You can hand them out.
At 2.
Can you
Yes.
can you find out where we're at as far as pay? Are we caught up?
Yes.
I have to go. Hold
I
on.
need to know
Okay.
any final anything y'all need.
If you want to hand me one more, I'll give it.
So I can go ahead and get it out of my budget.
Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, I'm in. Let's see what you got.
Okay, you guys ready to move
I
on
didn't
then?
remember you for the
Oh, we done?
future day,
Yeah.
Good.
for next year.
1 through 4.
Okay, so we're moving on to item number 6 on our agenda, which is comments. The next meeting for this group is June 25th, and the next P&Z meeting, though, is May 28th. It's the Tuesday after Memorial Day. Just,
Do you want me to look?
Is that still on the radar? We have action, anything to address?
You brought 10.
there's,
I'll make
My
some
commercial.
for the people that wasn't here.
we finished up our part of the commercial, and we gave that to Tim, and Tim was taking that to VOC.
What commercial?
Did we revise it?
What commercial are you talking about?
I thought the water tower got kicked back yesterday.
I thought you got,
For the water tower issue, I heard that it got kicked back too, but apparently not, so I don't know. I didn't go to the budget
I
meeting.
don't know what happened with it. I know it was a nightmare. I was there.
What, the water tower's a nightmare?
It's come back up in the
Oh my
budget.
Jesus,
Thank you.
because of what?
Well,
Can't
my
they read the
understanding
facts?
was that we recommended that they not do it, or if they did, they need to have a
No
study
harm.
done by a professional that deals with water towers. But I think that the question was, do they look at our recommendation that we don't do it and then be done? So I don't know how they, I don't know how it got kicked back because I didn't read the meeting minutes.
I didn't know it got kicked back to us.
I think they wanted us to more strongly recommend not pursuing it. Sorry, I think we want to let them go.
I didn't,
We let them go?
yeah, you,
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Hi, Wes.
Take it back.
Thank you,
Thank
Rhonda.
you.
thanks.
Yeah, everyone.
Nice meeting you.
The question was,
How about
that-
the commercial, we did the commercial, zoning rules, whatever, and I thought they got
Tim?
pulled.
okay, what we did was we took the commercial stuff.
Yeah.
Tim said, I'm gonna think about this some more, and he's working on it, and he told us he'd get back to us in May or June. Yes.
That's right. Talking about the commercial stuff that I thought them had to be completely relooked at.
Yeah.
What I was hoping to do was put it off all the way till next Christmas.
Okay.
But what we got to do, and I haven't started on it yet, but I'm going to have to go to parcel and give y'all exactly what they are. We're going to have to bring that back to us and see what fits and what doesn't fit. Because if they took the exception, it wouldn't have been a big effect. Like that one had already been, they had already give us a plan on, it would not even affected them. Because most commercial people don't design stuff the way we allow here. They design it the way that common stuff was put in here, in buffers. We don't have any of that. And so we need to look at specific lots and come up with something better. If nothing else, we need to at least have buffers. If we don't change any setbacks, we need to require buffers of some kind. And what I mean by that is planting bushes, fences, or something.
And they grow over onto the residential land.
Right,
I mean-
but we need to be better, and the other thing is that we need to be better prepared for those kinds of questions. Like, the biggest question I got was over here, well, I didn't have time to do the research, but that damn place over there can't be built there anyway.
What place talking?
Well, I got a big hit from Coastal Construction saying, if my place
They
goes
didn't get
down,
Alan's office.
if you didn't have our commercial ordinance at all, and the storm came through and hit that place over there, it's not going back. It's too close to the water, it's too big, and it's too
Coastal
tall.
vacations you're talking about?
Yes.
Coastal.
Yes, these places that were built. That place right there would be hard pressed to be back where it's at. That's a commercial construction. It's not built to flood zone standards to ASC 24, and it's got a bottom floor in it. That wouldn't be the argument that what you do will keep me from building back. Well, I want to be better prepared to say, well, guess what? If your building goes away, it's not coming back anyway, whether we pass this or not.
Right.
You're talking. They like to throw out the worst case scenario, not understanding what is already in place. There's tons of rules and guidelines that stop you from building in places that are going to cost everybody, me, you, and the rest of the world. So residential dwellings, that's another thing people don't understand. The rules for building residential along the coastal area are tough, but they're much more lenient than building commercial along the road. Do you understand? That's why you don't see them popping up. Most of these places that are already up got up way before the rules got so stringent, and some of them got up before the beaches eroded so far.
Yes.
And you
That's
know
true
you
right
ride
there.
down through these places and go, well, how in the world did they get a Holiday Inn on beachfront in Nags Head? Well, I'll tell you how. The thing was there when the beach was way out yonder. That's how. So they don't realize that under today's current standards. So we're going to go back and pull all those. It won't take us long to take a quick look at them, and then we can sit down and discuss how we want to do that commercial and be better prepared for what's coming in the future. But we do need to be better prepared for setbacks for commercial.
Does it
It's
make
worse than
sense
the parking.
to
It really
do a
is.
form-based code for
Do you
commercial?
want the liquor store next to your house
That's what I'm
with
saying.
no buffer?
Ian does.
But I thought,
No, I
No, I was talking about here on the island.
It's the restaurant thing that kills me. I'm gonna tell you, I don't know why it didn't happen, but if I'd have had the money, I'd have done it. I don't know why Ann didn't do it because she's got plenty of money. But when that Captain Jack's went away and they put that big old house there, why somebody didn't go over there and put a restaurant over there with a bar?
Yeah.
With a bar where
Absolutely.
people could walk right up on the beach and right back?
They tried to put a restaurant where those two houses
Yeah.
are, and there wasn't enough parking. That's our problem. Our rules are so tight.
But on that one, you could have parked across the street in the public parking like they do for.
Well,
When you
so-
say
so
they
did
tried
you-
to do that, when did they try to do that?
Yes,
They did apply. The vegetation line had eroded way too far.
See, that's what I'm
It's
saying.
built up since then.
That's the
Yeah.
guy,
I
that's
mean-
the guy that wouldn't.
But they couldn't meet,
What
they
I'm
couldn't
saying
meet
is
anything.
Yes.
what you, listen, people say, that, we tried to do that. Well, no, you had a plan in your mind. You came and wanted to fire it into a spot that it couldn't be. And when you didn't get it, you're blaming it on the atmosphere and everybody else. But what you got to do is take your box and go, zzz, zzz, and now you got it. But this plan of, because I know for a fact, because I did the math in my head, if I could have found the money, I'd have done it. But that place over there with a restaurant where you could have walked straight off the beach onto a bar, there's not enough, you couldn't have found a bank to hold all the money. Because that's where every local person would have parked all up here in this public parking. They'd have walked right down there because that's where all the local people went anyway under that building. And they would have parked their chairs right there and they were steady stream back and forth all day.
I ain't putting all that in minutes.
I hope that this recorder.
It's
turns off.
recording. We're still in the meeting.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we're still. okay.
Yes, you are. You put every bit of it.
Regarding,
Yes,
regarding
you are.
commercial.
And I'm not through.
And limiting
We are talking
what
about
can
commercial.
go
Turn them
on
speakers
commercial
off.
lots here.
I can't.
Oh,
We're
I
still
wanted
in
to
the
ask
meeting.
Tim.
It's a committee. There's no such thing. Y'all just playing at that.
I wanted to ask Tim how he felt about
Seriously.
using a form-based code for commercial zoning.
It's possible. Yes. It's possible.
So that keeps things limited to certain shapes and sizes,
Right.
regardless of what the entity is.
That's right. And that's not a bad thought. We can bring that up when we start to do the other stuff, because there's some of these lots that maybe we might need to limit form-based to, which I think we had that discussion before, in order to have the kind of commercial that have some more commercial than what we have.
Right.
And it also lets them know what they can have before they start their plan.
Right.
Because it's hard to get people out of that mindset they can't have what they want.
For
Instead of
example,
building what they
Oh, I
can.
know.
Dollar
that.
General wouldn't qualify if we did the right kind of form-based
That's right.
code, you know? Because it wouldn't be profitable to have a small store.
And form-based also does stuff like if you have a Charleston-style community, you don't end up with a Family Dollar or Dollar Tree.
Right,
In this,
yeah.
You know what I mean? If they did, they would have to make the architectural and the
That's right.
structure match the community.
So to answer your question, that's where we sit with C1. The big house stuff, Tim, it's,
Drop the ball.
okay, but it's gonna go to the VOC. What else did we have pending? The water tower, we wrapped up and sent it, but
It's in
Come
limbo.
back.
we
And
don't
you heard
know
us
if
coming
it
back.
No, but
It came up at the budget meeting, and I think it came up, somehow it came up at the budget meeting, and Peter was trying to explain to them, it came up that that the board, I won't say we, the planning board had recommended that, that the Board of Commissioners go out and get qualified people to check to see if we needed a water tower.
Yep.
That's
Right.
what was being said. Well, Peter was trying to explain that he thought that we had come to the conclusion that no water tower was needed, but if they decided to go forward, that.
And
that-
that's how it was written to them,
I
right?
think so.
And I reiterated that I thought that's what it was,
Was there no water tower?
which
needed?
which prompted some other conversation that makes me worried if I'm ever going to have a job again. But anyway, that's pretty much the way it went. Is that Peter was trying to say, and I thought Peter was right, so I just reiterated. But I could have swore it's what the planning board did. The planning board sent a document up that said
Pull
that
it up and see
a
what
water
you
tower
think.
was not necessary, but if you decide to go this route, you need to find someone who has expertise or qualifications in building water towers. And I
That
thought
sounds right.
that's what Peter was trying to say, and I agreed with him.
Well, and I'm not saying you're wrong, I thought I remembered, and we need to go look at the document. I thought I remembered we just said we need to go out and hire somebody that can do this evaluation.
So that's the
correctly.
question, right? So if
Mhm.
that's the
The
question.
I didn't remember us saying, no, we don't need it right now, but I could be wrong. So we need
Let's
to
see
look
what
at
we
the letter.
sent to them.
The purpose of a
I don't know if
tower
I've got it on this
is
computer.
water pressure.
Yeah.
And if you have less water pressure down there on any land island, then that may require a water tower. And I don't know that that's the case now.
Right, well, what I said was that the whole report was based off of fire suppression.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It never said anything about anything.
We have plenty
And
of
we
water
had-
for residential use.
And we had both the experts, we had the fire chief here and the engineer, and both of them the engineer basically said he was basing it off the
Commercial.
calculated numbers that came out of a commercial, you know what I mean?
Correct.
I'm just repeating it all.
Yeah.
But I never heard anything that said that people were not gonna be able to take a shower.
No.
I never heard any of that.
We meet
Anyway.
all guidelines for residential use with our current
Well,
water.
now
tower.
the concern seems to be in a different direction, that, there's a new line out there that the water is going away, the water pressure or something, I don't know, I can't keep up with it. But that's what I thought I heard, but that was not what,
We all know what this is
anyway, what did you say? Did you
about.
did you
Yes,
find it?
I can read you the letter.
Really.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the same one you guys blessed. At the October 23rd, 2018 BOC meeting, the Planning and Zoning Board was asked to further analyze the potential need for a second water tower. The preliminary report prepared by Right Angle Engineering was reviewed and further research was done with input from staff, Tri-Beach Fire Department Chief, and Right Angle Engineering. The Planning and Zoning Board recommended a phased approach to the issue. The first phase would consist of a study to be done by engineering firm which specializes in water systems and has experience performing water supply studies to determine at what point a second water tower may be needed. We also recommended that if it is determined that a second tower is needed in the near future, that the county be contacted about potential cost sharing.
So we didn't
and I also
say.
said that.
So we didn't say we don't need one. We
No.
said go do the study.
That's right.
So we did say that.
Well, if whenever they wanted to implement that phase, if it may be needed.
No,
Well, we
the
said
first
do the
thing you
study
said
first.
was recommend
Right.
approach to the first
And that
thing
was
would be
the
do
That's
the
right.
study.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So
That's
we
right.
did say do a study.
Right.
Well, we're hoping the study says you don't need a water tower.
Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem. And I hate to say this, but if you're an engineer, and there's never been one yet that didn't do this, if you're an engineer and your job is to go out and do something, then you go beyond the parameters of what you're supposed to do because you can only fail on the safe side. If an engineer is asked to come in here and find out whether we need another water tower,
Yeah.
if it's within
Yeah.
parameters of any
Yeah.
kind, he's going to say yes, only because he can't be wrong with yes.
Absolutely.
That's
It's
right.
like if you go to the surgeon.
And this is
decide
what-
you need surgery,
This
you're
is
being well
this
need
is my
surgery.
same argument for the inlet hazard area. Is that when you put nothing but engineers and experts on the inlet hazard area and you have no one there who's looking at it from a philosophical standpoint, all the answers are always going to be yes.
Okay, so if we ask them to do the study and tell us when do we need a water tower, then okay, then we need a water tower in 20 years versus we need a water
Right.
tower in
Which
2
is
years.
what we see.
Which is what we did ask them to
And
do.
You brought that up, that,
But not all engineering firms are like that.
No, they're not, but
And there's some top-notch engineering firms in North Carolina
Well, but-
that do nothing, or they're,
mhm.
well, that's,
Well, they do. They go out and they do.
I'm
But
just saying that,
but there's a difference here, Bob, and let me tell you what it is. Had the town not done everything it's already done and decided they wanted to do a study, and they hired an engineer to go out and see if you need one in the future. But we've not done that. What we've done is talked about building one from day one, and we want